传道篇 Preaching 爱是一种状态。
Love is a state of being. Xiefeng. From ancient times, I love you has been a beautiful song which has been unchanged throughout the ages. People become fascinated, infatuated, and enjoyed crazy bliss when hearing, I love you. Today, I finally know that I love you is a hallucination, the unpredictable clouds, a colorful bubble, and an anesthetic. Love is a state, like the constantly shining sun, the blooming peony, the roaring river, and the bright stars twinkling in the night sky with all their luster. Love has no specific target, it is wordless, but if there are specific targets, it is not love. The sun shines down constantly on everything, but if there is a target, it is not the sun, but a searchlight, a torch, or a spotlight. Love is like the shining sun and the blooming flowers. It is a state. Neither the sun nor the flowers ever say, I love you. No matter whether anyone is watching and no matter whether the bees and butterflies come to gather nectar, the flowers always bloom on time. Love always brings warmth, auspiciousness, harmony, goodness, happiness, and positive energy, and is infinitely fascinating to all living beings. Love never shows coldness, madness, ugliness, worry, suffering, negative energy, or desperation. Love cannot hurt anyone. If love leads to pain, grief, suffering, hatred, disappointment, or desperation, it cannot be real love. Love can only be felt by love. It cannot be demanded or taken by force, nor by money, status, fame, or beauty. Love is totally free, it is priceless, needs nothing in return, and is unconditional, with neither responsibilities, obligations, nor other requirements. Love treats everyone the same, beggars and billionaires, commoners and royalty. Love has no morals. Love has no system of values. Love lives in truth, kindness, beauty, and right, as well as in falseness, evil, ugliness, and wrong. The differences in the levels of love between different living beings are in the contents of love's energy. The more love a living being has, the higher its level is. The less love it has, the lower its level is. This is the same as the differences of kerosene lamps, electric lamps, and the sun. They are shining different lights. The kerosene lamp can only illuminate one room in a house, and the electric lamp can illuminate a yard, but the sun can illuminate a much larger area. The light of the Buddha can spread everywhere, but the light of human beings can only spread in limited regions. This is the difference between Buddhas and people. So, we understand that those who love everything and live for the benefit of all living beings are Buddhas. Those who only love and think about themselves are devils. Those who love and live for only one person or several people are animals. And those who only love and live for a group of people are human beings. According to this, we know that those who selfishly love themselves are the offsprings of devils. Those who only love one person or thing, such as within monogamous marriage, are the lowest level of animals. Those who love their families are the lowest level of human beings. And those who love their own nations, religions, organizations, and political parties are human beings. But those who live for the benefit of all living beings regardless of their own interests are more than human beings. They are bodhisattvas, angels, and Buddhas. Human beings are not worthy of speaking the word love. Love is the patent of bodhisattvas, angels, and Buddhas. Love is profaned when one person says, I love you, to another. Love is a non-material existence. Only those who have love for themselves can feel love. You will never feel love if you do not have love within yourself. Only if you have eyes can you see the eyes of other lives. Only if you are not colorblind can you see how colorful the world is. Those people with the greatest love will become super celestial beings. The greatest love is that you, yourself, completely become love. The greatest creator is love. Only by making ourselves become love can we enter the secret garden of the greatest creator, the celestial island continent of the Elysium world.
天堂在哪里?
Where is heaven? Xiefeng. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Heaven, or the kingdom of heaven, is the general term for the thousand-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium Celestial Islands continent. Heaven is where those lives' non-material structures are more perfect than human ones. The greatest characteristic of heaven is the amount of freedom of life. Freedom from the issues of food, clothing, shelter, transportation, disease, war, and sudden disaster. The thousand-year world is a celestial body 960 light years away from the Earth. 10 times the size of the Earth, it is currently inhabited by approximately 200 million people. As the basic lifespans of celestial beings on this planet are about 1,000 Earth years, it is called the thousand-year world. More details are available in Chapter 14 of The Thousand-Year World, the non-material world. The 10,000-year world is a beautiful celestial body located 3,480 light years from the Earth. It is 16 times bigger than the Earth and is equidistant from 16 suns which surround it. About 100 million celestial beings live there with similar basic characteristics as the land celestial beings described in Taoism. They enjoy lifespans of about 35,000 Earth years, and it is thusly called the 10,000-year world. More details are available in Chapter 14 of The 10,000-Year World, the non-material world. The Elysium world is the general term for the paradise universe. We inhabit a small place that is called the Earth universe. The paradise universe is called this in relation to other universes. The structure of the paradise universe is a Taiji ellipsoid which is called a low rotary galaxy. Low rotary galaxies contain 3,000 rotary river galaxies which each contain 3,000 Milky Way-type galaxies, and each Milky Way-type system contains 3,000 solar systems. In other words, the Elysium world is composed of 3,000 macro worlds, 9 million medium worlds, and 27 billion small worlds like the Earth. The Elysium world is a non-material existence. If the world on which we live were the front side of a sheet of paper, then the Elysium world would be the reverse side and we would never have access to it unless we could pass through it and enter the back. The place where humans live is also where the Elysium world exists, for the Earth is within the realm of the Elysium world. The Elysium world has 10 continents. The Lotus continent, the Borneo continent, the Kasyapa continent, the Ingwu continent, the Amida Buddha continent, the Celestial Islands continent, the Three Worlds, the Two-Way continent, the Moon Temple continent, the Gods continent, the Supreme Authentic Wisdom continent. The Celestial Islands continent is one of the continents of the Elysium world. These 10 continents are also called the Pure Land or the Buddha Land. Refer to the Elysium word within the non-material world. The place to which Life Changyuan guides Changyuan celestials toward is the Elysium Celestial Islands continent. It has 80 billion islands. Apart from the 30 billion islands that have been homesteaded by celestial beings, the remaining 50 billion islands are currently uninhabited. The celestial beings in the Elysium Celestial Islands continent are called super celestial beings, or Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. When people are asked where heaven and hell are, many of them answer that heaven and hell are in people's hearts. This is only half true because the idea is that the whole of the universe depends on the mind and all rules depend on cognition. The environment is created and generated by the mind, and everyone's closest friends and dearest relatives are in their minds, are only half true. Heaven and hell would still exist if people did not think about them, just as people's relatives who live far away would not disappear if they did, and they would still exist even if they were not thought about or even forgotten. Absolute idealism can confuse people. Actually, it is easy to go to heaven, but it is extremely difficult to break our obsession. Many secrets seem very mysterious, but once they are pierced, they become clear and simple.
程序在运行.
The program is running. 写fing. There is a saying, fishes are in the water, and humans are in the Tao. All things in the universe are running in the Tao. If we have difficulty understanding the elusive Tao, let me make it simple. We can also call it program. So the above saying could be, fishes are in the water and humans are in the program, and all things in the universe are running in the program. What is program? In Chinese, program is cheng shi. Cheng means the rule, law, pattern, and equation. Shi means sequence and order. Program, cheng shi, means the order of formation, development, change, and evolution of a thing according to established rules. The computer we use is the best example of program. We can somehow say that a computer is a program. To use a computer, we need to follow programs. Whoever is good at programming is a computer expert. Hackers are computer experts who can break, interrupt, and change computer programs. Computer programs are designed by human beings, while the program of the universe is designed by the greatest creator. The seasonal order of spring, summer, autumn, and winter in some areas of the earth is a program. The order of seasons is strictly changing according to the program. Spring comes after winter, and winter comes after autumn. They have been in that order for thousands of years. The process of a human body changes in the order of a fetus, baby, toddler, child, teenager, adult, and senior is also an established program. Human beings have to go through this process, which is out of their control. The germination, growth, flowering, fruiting, and withering of a plant is also a program. The law of causality, reap what you sow, is also an established program. You will not reap banana if you sow melon, and you will not reap cherry if you sow bean. What goes around comes around. The treacherous are cheated by the treacherous, and the honest are appreciated by the honest. If you pursue Buddhahood, you attain Buddhahood, and if you admire the beast, you acquire the nature of the beast. If you do not give freedom to others, you will not get freedom yourself. If you want to control others, you will be controlled. Furtiveness and deceit will make you a ghost and lead you to hell, while integrity and good merits will make you a celestial and lead you to heaven. This is also a program. When a man reaches a certain age, facial, armpit, and pubic hair start to grow. When a woman reaches a certain age, she starts to have menses. When a child is born, the mother begins to lactate. When a woman reaches menopause, she starts to have fewer and fewer menses until they stop. It is a biological program. The traditional family is also a program. When one gets married, he or she has to live according to the family program, which is beyond their control. Countries are programs. When one becomes a citizen of a country, he or she must involuntarily follow the country's program. If there is no external force, things will run around and around according to the rules of the program. Life will reincarnate according to the set program. To avoid constraints of the program, there must be an external force, without which the development of things will not change the track. It is just like a man is not able to make his feet leave the ground by dragging his hair. The external force is not necessarily a mechanical force. An accident, a phenomenon, a book, a story, and a sentence, even an insect, a hairstyle, a blade of grass, or an action could become the force. As long as it is able to change the existing program, no matter how small the changes are, it is an external force. The teachings of Jesus Christ, Buddha Sakyamuni, Prophet Muhammad, and Confucius are very strong external forces. How many programs are there in the universe? There are numerous. There is the program governing the movements of planets, the program of society's development, and the program of life changes. Each space has its own program. Each plant and animal has their own growing program. There are master programs and subprograms. There are long-term programs, short-term programs, etc. Programs are very rigorous. While they are also layered and closely related, they are causes and effects and are flexible to change. The master program is normally unchangeable, while subprograms are changeable. For example, it is difficult to change the master program of birth, growth, aging, and death of a human, while things like short-term depression can be changed by external forces such as inspiring words or actions. The change of the master program of how hair grows is very difficult, but the hairstyle can be changed easily. The master program of the nature of life is almost impossible to change, but the direction of life can be changed. You cannot touch a pitch and not be mucked. Without the external force, the track of life will not change. Life follows its trail. Once there is an external force, the track of life changes. A single conversation across the table with a wise man is worth 10 years of studying books. One takes the way of saints when influenced by a saint, and one takes the way of robbers when influenced by a robber. A butcher becomes a Buddha the moment he drops his cleaver. A thought and an idea can change one's destiny. Whichever direction you choose at an intersection without a sign, the corresponding program starts to work. For example, at the intersection of 4 roads, the first road leads to hell, the second to the human world, the third to the Buddha world, and the fourth to the celestial world. Where there is no road sign, our choice activates the corresponding program, and it will lead us to a destination unless we change the route midway. All programs are predefined, but human beings can transfer from one program to another. When a man exits one program, he enters another. It is impossible to enter an area that is not within a program. Human beings can only enter 12 programs, and the best and most free life program is the program of the Elysium world. When one life possesses the consciousness of a human being, he lives in the program of the human world and will therefore be constrained by the limits of the program. Once a life possesses the consciousness of a celestial being, his living program starts to slowly transfer to the program of the Elysium world, which means he has changed his life track. All programs are already designed, and many of them are hidden programs. Once conditions are met, any incident will activate the program. It is just like a landmine. It explodes when you step on it, but as long as it is not touched, it will remain hidden underground. It is also like drinking potassium cyanide. You will immediately feel terrible in your organs, foam at the mouth, and quickly bleed to death. When conditions are not ripe, the program will not activate. When the temperature is not warm enough, mosquitoes and flies will not revive and fly. When yin and yang do not meet each other, lightning and thunder will not fill the sky. Without proper humidity and temperature, seeds will not germinate. Before one has reached a certain stage of self-cultivation, he or she will not transform into a celestial being. One cannot enter into an oasis if he or she has not walked out from a desert. One cannot enter a new program if he or she does not leave the traditional family. One cannot enter heaven if he or she does not walk out of the human world. In short, these are predefined programs. When a program is activated, do not worry, for it will run automatically. It is just as a female egg will grow automatically once it is fertilized. We feed a child every day, so he will grow as well. In spring, if we spread seeds in the land, they will automatically germinate, flower, and fruit. It is the result as well as the power of the program. As long as we plant seeds, there will be fruits. This is how the program works. However, we must wait for the fruit to become ripe. We can get some fruits very quickly, while we need to wait more time to get others. And for some seeds, we need to wait a very long time to get their fruits. Peach fruits in 3 years and apricot in 4 years, while we need to wait 18 years to be able to enjoy the fruit of walnuts. Anxiety does no good. As a man sows, so he shall reap. We do not see the fruit, not because it is barren, but we shall see it when the time is right. By observing the current situation of humans in the society, we can know their past. By observing their current behaviors, we can forecast their future. If we do not see anything happen in 5 years, wait for another 5 years, and if still nothing happens, wait for 100 years. In a word, what goes around comes around. This is because the program is running and is not fortune-telling. We must trust programs and trust that as long as we give, we gain. We need to give first in order to gain. If we give others love, we will gain a beautiful life, future, or something else. If we cheat others or take a bribe of $100,000, we get many temporary benefits, but in the future, we might need to pay the price of a limb, face a calamity, or reincarnate to an animal to pay our debts. Therefore, any behavior that tries to take advantage of others is foolish, cheating and lying is stupid, and being opportunistic is short-sighted. throw a long line to catch a big fish. Being diligent on self-cultivation, it is possible to achieve the life level of a celestial being. Do not care that you get a return when you are committed to something. Just make your contribution wholeheartedly and ask not for gain. As long as you give, you will gain. This is because the program is running.
穷人进不了天堂。
The poor cannot enter into heaven. Xiefeng. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. This is a cruel reality because even Jesus Christ said, "It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God." We take it for granted that the kingdom of God belongs to the poor. However, after more than 10 years of harvesting the ripe crops, I have found that the poor cannot enter into heaven. The most distinctive feature of the poor is that they take, while that of the rich is that they give. A person who takes constantly is continuously sinning, accumulating debt, and digging deeper into debt. According to the law of the gravitation of life and the rules of the sum of positive and negative energies always equal zero, the poor will have to stay within the 6 great divisions in the wheel of karma without any hope of entering heaven. Heaven belongs to the rich and hell belongs to the poor. This fact sounds so miserable that I feel unkind saying it or even thinking it. It is the same as putting a knife into the hearts of the poor as their blood pours out. However, not telling the truth would mean that I, Xiefeng, am a big liar. And as those who conceal the truth would certainly go straight to hell, so who are the rich and who are the poor? Those who give wealth to others, to society, and to nature without incurring debts are rich, but those who constantly take from others, from society, and from nature while incurring debts are poor. What is wealth? What others, society, and nature need is wealth. Wealth is defined as soul wealth, spiritual wealth, and material wealth. All that can bring others' minds peace, serenity, and calmness are soul wealth. All that can encourage and cheer others on, or that can bring them passionate enthusiasm of life are spiritual wealth, and all that can offer the conveniences of food, clothing, shelter, transportation, birth, aging, illness, and death are material wealth. As long as you owe a debt and continue to take, you will be among the poor, but as long as you are not in debt and continue to give, you will be among the rich. Debt contains 3 aspects. Economic debt, to own others' money, including bank loans which have not been returned, to borrow others' things without returning them or to damage them without compensating their owners, to demolish others' houses without compensating their owners, to receive others' services or treats but not return or repay them, and so on are what we call economic debt. Point 2. Emotional debt. Care from grandparents. Love and care received from childhood by our parents, concern and care from siblings, help from friends, relatives, and neighbors, guidance from superiors, and the cooperation of workmates, education and guidance from masters and teachers, care and consideration from lovers and spouses, special filial piety from children, and similar ties are all forms of emotional debt. Point 3. Spiritual debt. The greatest Creator's grace, such as the enjoyment of the sun, the air, and the water, the pleasure to experience the splendid kaleidoscopic world, the spiritual teachings and the guidance of God, Buddha, celestial beings, and many saints and sages are all spiritual debts. Referring to the 3 types of debt above, you will easily know whether you are rich or poor. Isa billionaire rich. This is hard to say. Is a farmer in a distant village poor? This is equally hard to say. A billionaire who is in debt and keeps taking is poor, but a farmer with no debts and who is able to give themselves to others, society, and nature is rich. There are many ways to devote oneself to others, society, and nature. Whether it is materialistically, intellectually, or ideologically, or spiritually, as long as they give to others, to society, and to nature, that is devotion and dedication. To give a sweet smile is devotion, as are making others happy and joyous, and bringing people hope and pleasure is devotion to society, and protecting nature from damage is devotion to nature. But the most valuable and significant of all types of giving is what Buddha Sakyamuni called formless alms giving. In conclusion, Those who have given more than they have taken will enter heaven. Those who have taken more than their share of blessings will go to hell. Those who have given equally to what they have taken will continue their reincarnations into the mortal world. Who can give and pay dedications and devotions effectively? Only the rich, so heaven is theirs. The poor have nothing to give or pay back for their poverty, so they cannot go to the heaven, but only fall toward reincarnating into the animal level. All the poor must awake and watch.
内在结构决定一切。
Internal structure is what matters. 写法 The nature and function of things are determined by their internal structures. Sugar is sweet while tea is bitter, and this is decided by their structure, not by people. The price of a 1 carat, 0.2 g, diamond is 14,000 RMB yuan, but the price of an ounce of gold is only about 10,270 RMB yuan. That is to say that 1 carat of gold costs 70 renminbi yuan. The price difference between diamonds and gold is 200:1. The fundamental reason lies in the different internal structures of the two. The value of 1 carat of common stone is too small to measure. The greatest creator, gods and Buddha, angels, bodhisattvas, celestial beings, devils, demons, monsters, mortals, evil spirits, animals, and other life are quite different from one another, and the reason is also because of their different internal structures. Celestials, saints, sages, mortals, laity, laymen, and ignorant people are all humans, but they are unlike each other because each has a different internal structure. It is as with mushrooms that some are nutritious and will feed you, but some others are poisonous and will sicken or kill you. This too is because of their different internal structures. From this we can understand that the role a person plays, the responsibilities that they assume, and the accomplishments that they achieve are completely determined by their internal structure and not by others or by society. Gems are inlaid into crowns, while cobblestones are not. Thus we further understand that it is wrong to envy or admire others, or to blame social injustice. In any case, we should neither complain, resent, nor loathe having a low social status or position. This is called being content in poverty and devoted to spiritual matters. Since we understand that all things are determined by internal structures, we should then make efforts to change and perfect our own internal structures rather than flattering or currying favor with others, using connections for special treatment, envying and admiring others, complaining and resenting others or our society, seeking magic power or skills, seeking shortcuts or begging for mercy and help, blaming or accusing others for our bad luck, being opportunistic, or finding secrets to success. Peaches and plums do not talk, but people come to pick them. The fragrance of flowers attract butterflies. Peonies do not assume their beauty, but people naturally sing songs about them. No matter how flies and mosquitoes dress themselves, people will still detest them. Beggars cannot have refined tastes. Dog meat is not to be served at feasts. Those who lack elegance and good etiquette are not presentable. In short, the internal structure of each thing determines its social role and status. At this point, if someone still complains about heaven and earth or blames others or society for their ill treatment or bad luck in life, or finds excuses and reasons to blame others rather than themselves for their failures, then they would have to be either ignorant or just plain stupid. Are you not satisfied with your current situation? Do not find external excuses and reasons, but make sure to look for source causes from your own internal structure. The internal structures of things are determined by their quality. Taking people, for example, good intrinsic qualities are marked with diligence, kindness, purity, honesty, integrity, modesty, and open-mindedness, whereas bad qualities are shown as jealousy, blame, selfishness, greed, laziness, arrogance, dishonesty, and narrow-mindedness. A person who does not have good quality can never be smooth and refined no matter how they struggle, be accomplished in their career, or sail easily through life. They may enjoy good fortune for brief times, but not for very long. People who are moving toward heaven through self-refinery and self-improvement should never waste valuable time and energy on changing the external world or on changing their external appearance. They should invest their time and energy into improving and perfecting the non-material structures of their lives and on developing good quality. If their quality is not excellent and their structure is not perfect, then they can never reach heaven. It is the same as with a hard rock. Try as it may, it will never be cherished and valued by others. It must alter its internal structure in order to be valued and loved as a treasure and be applied in the most eye-striking and noble places.
内在结构决定一切。
Internal structure is what matters. Xiefeng. The nature and function of things are determined by their internal structures. Sugar is sweet while tea is bitter, and this is decided by their structure, not by people. The price of a 1 carat, 0.2 g, diamond is 14,000 RMB yuan, but the price of an ounce of gold is only about 10,270 RMB yuan. That is to say that 1 carat of gold costs 70 renminbi yuan. The price difference between diamonds and gold is 200:1. The fundamental reason lies in the different internal structures of the two. The value of 1 carat of common stone is too small to measure. The greatest creator, gods and Buddha, angels, bodhisattvas, celestial beings, devils, demons, monsters, mortals, evil spirits, animals, and other life are quite different from one another, and the reason is also because of their different internal structures. Celestials, saints, sages, mortals, laity, laymen, and ignorant people are all humans, but they are unlike each other because each has a different internal structure. It is as with mushrooms that some are nutritious and will feed you, but some others are poisonous and will sicken or kill you. This too is because of their different internal structures. From this we can understand that the role a person plays, the responsibilities that they assume, and the accomplishments that they achieve are completely determined by their internal structure and not by others or by society. Gems are inlaid into crowns, while cobblestones are not. Thus we further understand that it is wrong to envy or admire others, or to blame social injustice. In any case, we should neither complain, resent, nor loathe having a low social status or position. This is called being content in poverty and devoted to spiritual matters. Since we understand that all things are determined by internal structures, we should then make efforts to change and perfect our own internal structures rather than flattering or currying favor with others, using connections for special treatment, envying and admiring others, complaining and resenting others or our society, seeking magic power or skills, seeking shortcuts or begging for mercy and help, blaming or accusing others for our bad luck, being opportunistic, or finding secrets to success. Peaches and plums do not talk, but people come to pick them. The fragrance of flowers attract butterflies. Peonies do not assume their beauty, but people naturally sing songs about them. No matter how flies and mosquitoes dress themselves, people will still detest them. Beggars cannot have refined tastes. Dog meat is not to be served at feasts. Those who lack elegance and good etiquette are not presentable. In short, the internal structure of each thing determines its social role and status. At this point, if someone still complains about heaven and earth or blames others or society for their ill treatment or bad luck in life, or finds excuses and reasons to blame others rather than themselves for their failures, then they would have to be either ignorant or just plain stupid. Are you not satisfied with your current situation? Do not find external excuses and reasons, but make sure to look for source causes from your own internal structure. The internal structures of things are determined by their quality. Taking people, for example, good intrinsic qualities are marked with diligence, kindness, purity, honesty, integrity, modesty, and open-mindedness, whereas bad qualities are shown as jealousy, blame, selfishness, greed, laziness, arrogance, dishonesty, and narrow-mindedness. A person who does not have good quality can never be smooth and refined no matter how they struggle, be accomplished in their career, or sail easily through life. They may enjoy good fortune for brief times, but not for very long. People who are moving toward heaven through self-refinery and self-improvement should never waste valuable time and energy on changing the external world or on changing their external appearance. They should invest their time and energy into improving and perfecting the non-material structures of their lives and on developing good quality. If their quality is not excellent and their structure is not perfect, then they can never reach heaven. It is the same as with a hard rock. Try as it may, it will never be cherished and valued by others. It must alter its internal structure in order to be valued and loved as a treasure and be applied in the most eye-striking and noble places.
让我们来读无字天书。
Reading the book without words. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. There are 3 types of books. The first one is with words, such as newspapers, magazines, journals, and other publications, both paper and online. The second is with symbols, such as sculptures, paintings, and music. The third kind includes everything in nature. The so-called book without words refers to all images and things in nature with neither words nor symbols. The most esoteric of the 3 books is the one without words, but the simplest is the one with words. People with low spiritual natures can only read books with words, but only people with high spiritual natures can read the book without words. What the gods, Buddha, celestial beings, and saints read is the book without words. The 6th Zen patriarch, Huineng, was illiterate, but became the patriarch because he could read the book without words. Therefore, if a person wants to become a master, a celestial being, or Buddha, they must read the book without words. Reading things, phenomena, and people is reading the book without words. Let us try to read it. A person with body odor or halitosis, bad breath, might not be aware of it. When we eat garlic or green onions, we do not smell them ourselves, but others will smell them and will know it. The natures and attributes of things give off their corresponding smells. Those who have smelled or eaten durian know it by its smell. We can learn this truth from the book without words. The essence is revealed from the phenomenon. For instance, if we want to know a person's nature, we can learn their internal natural structure from what they have said and done before. Many allusions in Chinese history are full of wisdom, such as the relationship between Su Dongpa and Master Foyan. Su Dongpa always wanted to outsmart Master Foyan, but he never succeeded. Once, Master Foyan told Su Dongpa that he looked like a statue of Buddha, but Su Dongpa replied that Master Foyan looked like a heap of cow dung. To this, Master Foyan just smiled and walked away silently. Su Dongpa thought he had taken the upper hand this time, so he joyfully told his smart sister Su Xiaomei about it when he got home. Hearing this, Su Xiaomei said, "You are utterly defeated this time. Because Master Foyan has Buddha in his heart, he sees a statue of him in you. But you have a heap of cow dung in your heart, so you see that in him." Nature reveals what it is. The benevolent see benevolence, and the wise see wisdom. A person who is filled with love can feel nature's love and others' love, but a person with no love in their heart can never feel your love regardless of how much you show it. Those who always compliment others have rich and beautiful spirits and souls, but those who always demean, mock, criticize, insult, and attack others, and who always speak badly about them, both to their faces and behind their backs, most clearly have ugly souls and extremely poor spirits. Speaking well of others shows that one is good, but speaking ill of others shows that one is not. Flowers always emit lovely fragrances wherever they are, but dog droppings always give off undesirable stench in spite of their surroundings. One who accuses others of heresy exposes that they themselves are heretical. As with Su Dongpa, he had cow dung in his heart, so he saw Master Foyan as such. Therefore, people should not care about others' comments and judgments. Flies and mosquitoes will consider you disgusting because they are disgusting, but butterflies will find you beautiful because they are beautiful. An artist painted a picture which he believed to be fairly good, but he wanted to know how people would react to it. So he left his picture in a public place with a brush and some ink next to it and wrote on top of the painting, "Please point out any faulty strokes in this painting." At day's end, he recovered his painting, but the painting was completely different. Each stroke was criticized as being faulty. The painter was so sad and distressed that he barely slept that night. But the next day, he painted the exact same picture as before and took it back to that same public place, except this time he wrote, "Please point out the superb artistry of this painting." At the end of the day, the painting was again completely different, except that now all the comments described its elegance and beauty. He sighed with emotion. The good or bad of the painting was determined by the viewer's state. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Quantum mechanics also explains the same principle. The movements of fundamental particles are decided by the consciousness of the persons watching them. The Japanese scientist Masaru Emoto found that the structures of pure ice crystals can be shaped by the mentalities of people observing them. If the observer's heart is full of love, or if the freezing water is exposed to positive emotions, such as love or gratitude, or to music, prayers, or art, the ice crystals become symmetric and perfect. But if the observer's heart is filled with hate, or if the water is exposed to negativity such as mean words or destructive images, they appear very disorderly and irregular. Therefore, we should not be affected by others' comments about ourselves, or we will be fooled. The Pygmalion, or Rosenthal, effect on psychology illustrates this point well. People develop in line with others' suggestions and expectations. We must only be committed to ourselves and ignore other people's comments in order to live out our own lives. If someone accuses you of being mentally disordered, just smile and do not get upset, for it is they who are mentally disturbed. But if someone praises you as being a saint, do not be blindly proud, for it is they who are the saint. Let us read the book without words as such. I have written more than 100 articles on revelations which may help you to find your enlightenment.
如何知道自己的前世？
How to know our previous lives. Dayform Celestial. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. The hypnotic induction method is one way, but we can also observe ourselves from the life clues found in our previous lives. The universe is holographic, our life is holographic, and our life information base contains all of the information from all the ages of all life journeys of all generations, and the information is always passed down. This information is hidden, but it will reveal itself every now and then. By capturing these momentarily revealed clues, we can trace our pasts. Understanding the life characteristics of 36-dimensional space is conducive for us to understand more of our previous lives. There is only one kind of human nature, but from the people that we know and those that we know of through various channels, we can see that human nature are diverse and colorful. There are quantum differences between people, sometimes even poles apart. The reasons are that people have different origins. Some are from the heaven world, some from the animal world, and some are reincarnations from the mortal world. Even for those from the heaven world, there are great differences. Those from the Elysium world and from the thousand-year world can never be the same. Likewise, even for those from the animal world, those who were carnivores will have totally different natures than those who were herbivores. In this sense, mankind is a rabble. The mortal world is a tenement yard for all kinds of lives. There are hundreds of thousands of clues to trace our previous lives, but we can only have rough ideas about them from these clues. Here are 18 examples. If you have holographic order thinking, congratulations, then you are from the side of the greatest creator. You are a god. If you have formless thinking, congratulations, then you came to the mortal world from the Elysium world. You were a Buddha. If you know that you can change a world magically, then you were a super celestial being. If you were born to like freedom and always seek happiness and joy, you can follow your heart's desire without overstepping the line, then you were a celestial being. If you often dream of flying freely, your mind and body are often in a strange state of joy, you have no fear of death and hate your life in the mortal world, then you are from the 10,000-year world. If you are always looking for the way back home and feel that you do not belong to the mortal world, You are moreover benevolent and kind, a fun lover. You do not want to be fettered by states, religions, organizations, or families, and you fancy and yearn for a better life in the future, then you are from the thousand-year world. If you have the Taiji thinking and you are super wise, clever, and gifted, then you are someone influential in society, maybe even a sage or saint. If you love your own nation, culture, family, and family life, and think all this is perfectly justified, then you are a mortal human. If you often dream of flying in your dreams, but still feel attached to the mortal world, then you are a bird. If you derive pleasure from and even love eating meat and have never felt the suffering and misery of life being slaughtered for meat, then you are a predatory carnivore. If you naturally prefer vegetarian or vegan foods, are naturally timid and afraid of being hurt, like to depend on groups, love your family and religion, then you are a docile herbivore. If you inherently want to be a policeman, are very sensitive to theft and crime in society, and always want to arrest criminals, then you are feline, a cat. If you innately want to be a soldier, are willing to defend your land and home, then you are a dog or wolf. If you naturally prefer to take, embezzle, and steal, then you are a mouse or other rodent. If your nature is to bear hardship without complaining, endure bullying without resisting, harbor grudges without showing them in words and deeds, be trampled upon and feel powerless to resist, completely abide by your destiny, then you are a farm animal from the livestock world. If you are naturally aggressive and quick-thinking, good at sorcery, and can derive pleasure from the pain of other life, then you are from the devil world. If you have extraordinary bearing and charming style, are endearing and extremely selfish, then you are a goblin. If you are clever in trivial matters and have mastered a lot of magic tricks, you always watch for your chance to seize others' love and property, then you are an evil spirit. Draw analogies by checking yourself against the dispositions of other life, and you will find traces of your previous lives. Note: life in the inflamed layer, the frozen layer, and the netherworld usually do not directly enter the human world. Insects and many plants belong to other life cycles, which never enter into the human world. The above is only a general outline. If you want to know your previous lives from A to Z, you will have to observe and verify repeatedly. Like attracts like, you can also find your shadows of the past from those people with whom you associate most often and most closely. After reading this article, some people may be excited, but others may be angry. Please calm down, because what you see is your past, not your present. No matter what you were in the past, you are now a human. After you know the coordinate system and your coordinate point, you will have a clear idea of the direction and destination of your life's evolution. If you think this article is bullshit and nonsense, just take it as a fun game. Please refer to the next article, How to Predict Your Own Afterlife.
如何推测自己的来世？
How to Predict Your Own Afterlife. Dayform Celestial. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. Everything has the ability to move and develop, and this includes life. When we see a pregnant woman, we know that she is conceiving life. She is having a baby. After the baby is born, we know that it will gradually grow up, move from childhood to adolescence, youth, middle age, and old age. After spring, we know it will be summer, fall, and winter. As long as we know our situation, we can predict our life state in our next phase. To speculate about your afterlife, you first need to understand the non-material structural state of your life. You cannot see your life's non-material structure with your naked eyes. The only way to do this is to examine your own consciousness. You can predict your afterlife according to the characteristics of your own consciousness. Consciousness is the essences of life. Different consciousnesses determine different life states. Some days ago, Foshan Celestial and I went to enjoy a terrace in Yuanyang, Yunnan. When we went deep into the village and I saw how some elderly Hani people were having hard lives, I asked him, These elderly people have suffered in this valley throughout their lifetimes. Will they continue to be here in their afterlives? They should leave this valley. Foshan Celestial replied, they will continue to reincarnate here because they have no other place or world in their consciousnesses unless they desire to leave this valley and learn about the outside world. This answer reveals the secret of reincarnation. Consciousness decides existence. To an individual life, what is not in consciousness does not exist. What is wanted to be exist, it must exist in consciousness at first. As the French philosopher René Descartes put it, I think, therefore I am. Why do I have the nerve to say that I can guide Chanyuan Celestials to the Celestial Islands continent? Because I keep infusing the content of it into them. When they understand all the details about it, especially the characteristics of life and the lifestyles of the super-celestial beings there, and gradually clear away other consciousnesses, they will undoubtedly go to the Celestial Islands continent in their next lives. This is scientific truth. It is meticulous and exact. So, how can you predict your own afterlife? You must read and fully understand life's 18 qualities in humans, beings, and life first, and then you will know. People look alike in appearance, but they are very different deep inside. At the same time, you can check your faults by referring to the Supreme Book of Rewards and Punishments. Here are seven suggestions. If you have killed many dogs, then you will be a dog in your next life. This is karma and exact. You can make analogies for other cases. If you have murdered a person, then you will inevitably go to the hell world, the inflamed layer or the frozen layer. Divine's punishments, though slow, are always sure, with big meshes, yet letting nothing slip through. If you have abused life, then you will definitely go to the hell world, the netherworld. You reap what you sow. If you oppress the good and kind, swindle and cheat, steal and loot, then you will go to the animal world. As you sow, so shall you reap. If you love freedom, but are still ignorant, then you will be a bird. If you owe too many debts that are left unpaid, then you will likely go to the livestock world. If you are kind and hardworking and love your family, culture, and state very much, then you will continue to be reborn as mortal human. Remember the warnings and teachings of Jesus Christ. If you leave a penny of unpaid debt, then you cannot leave the place where you owe it. If you have unfulfilled wishes, then you will return back to the mortal world. You will have to investigate into your past lives. Do not assume that if you forget something, it will just go away. Make a careful list of your wrongdoings from the Supreme Book of Rewards and Punishments. If you find some, do not just let them go, but learn to compensate. Here are six suggestions. If you have harmed animals, henceforth love them. If you have harmed people, henceforth love them. If you owe someone emotionally, pay back the emotion. If you owe debts, pay back the debts. Ask for forgiveness for the damage, abuse, and bullying of people or other life. Do merits as far as possible and do merits according to the teachings of Buddha. Do more formless almsgiving. If your merits are great enough, you can compensate for your faults and debts that have accumulated over many generations. If you have a clear conscience and have paid back the grace of your parents and nature, and if you do not owe a single debt to any person or animal, then you will be free to go to heaven in your next life. Those who talk about spirits, deities, fortune, and disaster, lose nature, are sneaky, speak voices dripping with sarcasm, resort to sorcery, and talk nonsense will become ghosts, demons, and monsters. We can just look at the variety of fruits and flowers that we see. Why are they so different from each other? The reason lies in the structures of their lives. Their different life structures are the differences of their entities, and in the teachings of Chinku Celestial, their forms and uses will be different. Always remember these four truths. If you eliminate the concepts of family, nation, culture, and religion from your consciousness, are fond of freedom, happiness, and joy, have repaid all your debts in the mortal world, and have done merits, then you will go to the 1,000-year world of heaven. If you often dream of flying and are in a state of joy without having sexual contact, then you will go to the 10,000-year world of heaven. If you possess Buddha consciousness, then you will go to the corresponding Elysium world. If you revere the greatest creator, revere life, take the way of the greatest creator, have obtained supernatural powers, and can fancy an ideal world, then there is no doubt that you will go to the celestial islands continent of the Elysium world. You are the one who knows best about what kind of non-material structure your life has achieved. If you do not know, then your spiritual perception has not yet opened, and you should work at opening it. The above are general ideas and may not be very accurate, but they can serve as a general navigation. You need to draw inferences about other cases from one instance in order to predict your afterlife.
人生的轨迹与自由意志。
The trajectory and free will of life. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. There are many times more stars in the sky than people on Earth. Each star floats along its own orbit around the galaxy, and each orbit is determined and is not its free choice. Life also has its track. Birth, growth, aging, and death is our inescapable course. 18. Properties cannot be self-managed within life's track. If we make a detailed search and analysis, we can see that each detail on life's track is predetermined, including our name, temperament or character, words and actions, who we will encounter, what we will suffer, what diseases we will succumb to at each stage of life, when the end will come, and so on. Here is the question. Since our life trajectory and its details are already predestined, do people have free will or not? And if they do have free will, how then is it manifested? There is no doubt that people have free will. It is precisely this free will that causes the hesitation, trouble, agony, fear, and sadness in life. The universe is one. The universe is holographic. The universe is a big play. Everything that happens in human society is a single episode of the big play of the universe. Everyone is an actor on this big stage of life and performs in strict accordance with a predetermined plot and is playing their role in this prescribed scenario. The hesitations, troubles, agonies, fears, sadness, and other psychological feelings in life result from the conflicts and contradictions between each person's free will and their role in the play. You are asked to play a mouse, but your free will wants you to play an elephant. You are asked to live in a thatched cottage, but your free will wants you to live in a 5-star hotel. You are asked to cooperate and serve a certain person, but you attempt to make them cooperate and serve you. You are asked to grow vegetables, but you hope to make a spaceship. You are asked to do good or evil, but you choose to do the opposite, and so on. This is the conflict between your role in the play and your free will. Whenever the arrangement of the play is contradicted by free will, hesitation, trouble, agony, anxiety, fear, worry, and sadness will take over. If your free will agrees with the arrangement of the plot, you will feel peace, joy, happiness, and blessings in your heart and feel free. The highest realm of self-refinery and self-improvement requires you to eliminate your self-persistence and to become free from ego. It is only in this way that you can unite with Tao. Then, when you do that, you will attain the spiritual state of an immortal. Here is another question. Since everything is predestined, what is the value and meaning of struggling and making efforts? First, the so-called struggling and making efforts are barely more than nonsense. When a program is determined, the role to be played is determined and one's so-called struggles and efforts are determined. That is, you will have to struggle and make efforts because a series of things will force you to. It is decided by the non-material structure of your life. Your character and temperament will force or encourage you to struggle and make efforts. This is determined by the self-state. It is not that I want to struggle and make efforts, but my character and the things happening around me and their ramifications prompt me to do so. This is described as, many things are not in charge of our hands in this world. Every person yearns for a better future and to go to heaven, so who can eventually achieve their most beautiful dreams. Also, now that everything is predestined, what is the point of personal yearning? This involves some of the programs of the play of the universe. The play of the universe has destiny and variables. The plot of the play is destiny. Who shall play which characters in the play are variables. If you play well, you can constantly play the role more according to your free will, such as to play in heaven. If you play badly, you will play a role more deviated from your free will, such as to play a demon in hell. Who then will go to heaven? Anyone who can play the role in accordance with the established plot of the play, free from self-persistence and free from ego, will go to heaven. But anyone who has conflicts with the arranged plot, that is, whose self-conscious is too strong and is unwilling to play the role, will end up in hell. We can find such a secret from this. Going to heaven or hell has nothing to do with the role you play, but everything with how well you play it. For instance, from most people's perspective, Adolf Hitler should definitely be in hell, but from the plot of the play of the universe, if he played his part very well, he would be in heaven. No matter what your role is, an emperor or a thief, as long as you play it well, your reward will be to go to heaven. If you do not play it well, you will be doomed to reside in hell. So, how does one know whether they are playing well or not? Here is a very simple validation method. Namely, no matter what role you play, be it one with much pain and suffering or one that enjoys happiness and pleasure, be it a role to ride the whirlwind or one to suffer the commonplace. If you can stay calm, be happy and joyful, free from hesitation, trouble, agony, anxiety, worry, and fear, but with gratitude, then you have played well. Otherwise, you will have failed the role. Those who have mastered the essence of the teachings and instructions of Buddha understand that self-persistence is the biggest obstacle to the Elysium world. Self-persistence is the result of a strong free consciousness. If you do everything according to your own ideas and wishes, if you always believe that yours is a just cause, if you always insist on your own views, if you always know that you are right, then you cannot play the arranged plot of the play very well, and you will be miserable and unable to be rewarded with the Tao of Heaven. Take things as they are. Associate with others by following your predestined relationships. Acting in accordance with your nature and taking advantage of opportunities is the best way to play the role.
雪峰世缘
The interpretation of predestined ties. Xiefeng. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Tie. A bond of information that will reconnect two lives in the future for favor, disgrace, or injury. Once you get a tie, it must be ended, otherwise their attractive force will be inescapable. Predestined ties. Potential energy accumulates from the attractive forces between lives. It circulates in infinite space and eternal time until it reaches the point where it transforms into kinetic energy, releases it, and then causes the attractive force to disappear. Favorable ties. The information to be processed that remains in the negative universe which result from the love and honor between lives who bless each other and are eager to reunite. The information will never disappear until these wills are realized and the ties end. Good karma. One life gives another life a sincere blessing and a favor that will cause a corresponding gravity to return in the future. Evil karma. The hatred and debt between lives which never disappear until the hatred is settled or the debt is paid off. Worldly ties. All the information left and all the debts owed in the mortal world are called worldly ties. Marriage ties. The love-hate relationships between husbands and wives are called marriage ties. Celestial ties. A bond with a celestial being is called a celestial tie. End ties. End ties are when all debts are paid back. Following predestined ties. According to the arrangement of the universal scenario and plot, accept and play the assigned role with pleasure. Ties are kinds of invisible meshes which are established between lives. Divine punishments are slow, but always sure with big meshes, yet letting nothing slip through. Once getting a tie, it must be ended, otherwise you will be unable to escape their meshes. Worldly ties must be ended in the mortal world. Heavenly ones must be ended in heaven, and hellish ones must be ended in hell. Ties are attractive forces. Those which are not ended will stay in tow forever, no matter how far apart in time or space, and they can never be escaped. Anyone who wants to go to heaven must end all ties in the mortal world as soon as possible, whether they are good karma, evil karma, favorable ties, or marriage ties. As long as there are the ties, it is best to end them as soon as possible, otherwise you will be unable to leave the mortal world, and will have to reincarnate back into the mortal world of samsara to end the ties in future lives.
缘的奥秘和真谛。
The Secret and Truth of Predestination I. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. Preface: brushing against shoulders in this life is the result of the 500 times of looking back in the previous lives. To ride in the same boat is the result of 100 years of cultivation. To sleep on the same pillow is the result of millennia of cultivation. Knowing I am not destined to enter her heart, how can I compare with the catkins and swallows? Flowers bloom and wither. Tides rise and fall. Spring awakens the branches. Running water is heartless, but the grass welcomes it every year. People may have sorrow or joy and be near or far apart, but the moon will still wax and wane. Born of these scenes, can the word sorrow suffice? Dynasties fall, but mountains and rivers remain. So how many times can we see the beautiful sunset? The events of our world are like games of chess. Each game is only new because it is destined to be so. In a life, people endure hardships and twists and turns in the mortal world and repeat samsara. Some people are designated to meet from thousands of miles apart, but not to know their next-door neighbors. All these are predestination. All things are predestined. Definition of predestination. Predestination is the cause of generating, sustaining, destroying, and changing of all forms and all things, and is the cause of all events. It is the bridge and the tie which causes sorrow and joy, separations and reunions. It is the factor which decides the development of matter and the origins of desires, words, and deeds connected to other things in the universe which are bound to happen in the future since beginningless time. It is a kind of debt after receiving other services or graces which have not been paid back timely. It is the set of revenge, wrong with wrong. Several cases of predestination. 614 years ago, Emperor Qingzu of Ming, King of Yin, Zhu Di killed 873 members of the 9 tribes of the Fang Xiaoru clan. Yet he still could not vent his anger and counted Fang Xiaoru's students as one clan and killed them all. Many people perished. Why did that happen? What was its cause? It turned out that Fang Xiaoru's father had selected a cemetery plot. At night, he dreamed that the Red Snake King was sticking his red tongue out and requesting earnestly that he delay the groundbreaking for 1 or 2 days so that his family could move away. The next day, the Fang family dug the earth and built their tomb as scheduled. Soon, the workers exclaimed, "We have found a red snake pit." Countless red snakes slithered and fled in panic. Fang Xiaoru's father ordered them to kill all the red snakes with fire and knives. That night, the bleeding red snake king cursed him in a dream. "I will kill as many of you as you killed of us." Shortly thereafter, the Fang family gave birth to a baby son, Fang Xiaoru. Born into a scholarly family, he was very smart and diligent as a boy. He was eloquent and charming in appearance, and his tongue was red. He was the reincarnation of the Red Snake King. He deliberately resisted an imperial edict from King Yin in order to enrage him and fulfill that curse by implicating his 9 tribes. After killing all 873 members of the Fang clan, the number still could not match the number of the red snakes killed on that day so very long ago. Fang Xiaoru deliberately provoked King Yin again, even 10 tribes. So what? The king then had all of Fang Xiaoru's students put to death, and the Red Snake King finally got his revenge. In the ancient times, there was a prince who was very handsome, intelligent, and well-educated, and whose closest friend was a young man of equally excellent and outstanding virtues. Like Nose-like, the two would discuss state strategies, compose poems and couplets, and toast the moon together. They discussed everything under heaven and were very intimate. One day, they went out for fun and met a girl who was unspeakably beautiful, cultured and decent, well-versed in lyre playing, chess, calligraphy, and painting, a matchless stunning beauty throughout the whole country. After a period of time, both the prince and the young man confessed their love to the girl, but in the end she chose the common young man rather than the prince. The prince fell into an abyss of depression and pain and went to see the most accomplished and eminent monk to ask him why this happened. The monk resorted to magic and presented the following view to the prince. On a beach, a beautiful naked woman laid motionless. A man came to the seaside and saw her. He approached her and placed his hand to her nose. Evidently, the woman was dead. He turned and walked away. A moment later, a second man arrived. He also saw the woman, and as the man before him had done, he examined to see whether she was alive, but she was indeed dead. He then removed his jacket, covered the woman, and went away. After a while, a third man came. After observing, he too realized that the woman was dead. He stopped and carried her on his back until he found a place at the beach to bury her. He also made a mark for her grave. The eminent monk then said, "The woman who you both love is the woman who died on the beach." The man who took his jacket off and covered her was you in a previous life, and she needed to repay your favor for a period of time in this one. But the man who buried her was your best friend, and she needed to return his favor for the rest of her life. In the late Ming and early Qing dynasties, there was a man from Anhui named Hu Mingxuan. One day, his knees were attacked by impetigo, and he suffered a biting pain. As time went on, the impetigo grew worse as a person's face, with eyebrows, eyes, a nose, and a mouth appeared on it. Hu Mingxuan turned to 130 physicians who not only could not heal him, but actually made it much worse. On December 7, 1651, in a dreamy state, Hu Mingxuan faintly heard a voice coming from the impetigo on his knees. "I am Lu Xiaorong from the Liang dynasty of the Five Dynasties, 906 to 923. You killed me in the Luoyang Palace. Today I come to take revenge. How can physicians cure you? Confess your sins to Buddha, and perhaps you will be remedied." After Hu Mingxuan woke from the dream, he stopped seeking physicians for help and swore to confess and to copy the Buddhist sutras. At first, he could stand up with the support of a cane, then he could stand and walk. Eventually he healed without taking any medicine. After more than 700 years, the soul was still looking for his enemy for retaliation. In the time of Buddha Sakyamuni, an elderly man wanted to be a monk. It is important for a monk to have good spiritual roots, so Sakyamuni asked his arhats, disciples, to see if this person had good ones to decide whether he could be a monk. All the arhats shook their heads after seeing this man and agreed, no good roots. Arhats could only see 500 cycles of life and found that he had never had any relationship with Buddha during those 500 cycles, so he did not have good roots. Sakyamuni then examined the man and proclaimed, "In the beginningless time, he was a woodcutter. He came across a tiger in the mountain and was so scared that he climbed up a tree and cried out, 'Namo Buddha.' From his cry of 'Namo Buddha,' today his good roots appeared. Sakyamuni ordained him, and he later rose to become an arhat himself. In the Shu kingdom, there was a bully named Guo Jingzhang. One day, he was drunk and hit a poor man, Zhaoan, with a wine pot. The mouth of the pot smashed his head and killed him immediately. Guo Jingzhang gave Zhaoan's son a lot of money to help conceal the matter from the law. Soon afterward, Guo Jingzhang's head grew a sore about 3 to 4 centimeters deep like the one where the pot had hit Zhaoan. His bone was exposed. He bled and discharged a constant stream of pus, and he could occasionally see Zhaoan's face in it. The sore eventually penetrated into his throat and killed him. A scholar in the Yuan dynasty was seriously harmed by a friend. That night, he became enraged and determined to kill the man. He passed a temple on the way to his former friend's house, where an eminent monk stood at the gate. From his deva eyes, the monk saw that the scholar was tailed by a vicious demon. As the scholar arrived at the door of his intended victim's house, an idea struck him. He has turned from being my friend to my enemy, but his mother and wife did me no harm. If I kill him, they will both lose their means of life. After several rounds of inner struggling, he decided to forgive the man, Forget the idea of killing him and go away. On his way back, he passed the same temple where the same monk was still standing at the gate. But this time, the monk's deva eyes saw a completely different scene. The vicious demon which had tailed the scholar was gone, and he was escorted by angels above his head. The monk told the scholar what he had seen and asked him what happened. The scholar told his story truthfully, and the monk exclaimed that the demon and the gods were moved by just a thought. The idea of tolerance changed the scholar's fate. He later became an official, and the friend who had betrayed him died on a battlefield in a mountain village in Damiao Township in Chaoyang City, Liaoning Province. There lived a villager named Li Cheng. Li Cheng's grandmother had a relative named Zhang Qing who used to carry and sell fabrics for the Li family, but whose own family was very poor because he lost in everything he did throughout his life, and his family had been supported by Li Cheng until Zhang Qing died. Li Cheng even paid to have him buried. About 1 month afterward, Li Cheng was sleeping soundly in the middle of the night when he suddenly heard someone calling his name. Li Cheng, I am Zhang Qing. I am coming to pay my debt back to you. Li Cheng found it strange after he woke up 3 times in a row from his sleep. Just then, the house manager came to tell him, "Master, the big horse just gave birth to a colt." They knew that the colt was Zhang Qing reincarnated and named him that. Several years later, Li Cheng pulled a cart to Basi Jiazi and stayed in a postal station there. The next day, the local area was having a fair. In the morning, the horse went to the fair alone and stamped the earthen pots and utensils of a street vendor, leaving only 5 big basins intact. The vendor was very angry, and he gripped the horse to find justice. Li Cheng was informed that his horse had made trouble for him and went to the fair to apologize and promised to compensate the vendor for his losses. Li Cheng yelled, Zhang Qing, what is wrong with you today?" The vendor wondered why the horse was named Zhang Qing. Li Cheng told him about Zhang Qing's home and his reincarnation into the horse. The vendor said, "I knew Zhang Qing. I bought some fabrics while he was alive, and I still owe him money." He then calculated his losses from the daily wares, and the value was exactly what he owed to Zhang Qing, so the balance was even. They all understood why the 5 big basins were left untouched. Yuan Liaofan, the author of the 4 Lessons of Liaofan, in the 16th century was from Jiashan, Zhejiang. When he was young, a fortune teller predicted the good and bad fortunes to come in his life, including his rankings in the imperial examinations, his official titles, that he would not father a son, and when he would die. Later, many things were fulfilled accurately just as the fortune teller had predicted. Every day he became increasingly idle, knowing that his fate was predestined and that everything would come along automatically. Then he met Zen master Yungu, who told him, "Fate is created by the self and blessings are sought after by the self. Pursuing it in a correct way, attaining it, depends on your destiny." He began to understand that fate could be changed and became determined to amend his faults. He became tolerant of others' wrongdoings to him and committed to doing good with the greatest determination and perseverance. Surely enough, the original predictions lost accuracy after he decided to change his fate. Not only was he promoted to higher offices, but he also fathered 4 sons and survived a full 16 years longer than had been predicted.
缘的奥秘和真谛
The Secret and Truth of Predestination 2. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. The 8 Descriptions of Predestination. A tie will not end until the debt is paid. Once a tie is formed, only its resolution can dismiss it, and with that, it shall end. Love and hate determine the depths of ties. Some ties are very shallow while others are very deep. The depth of a tie is decided by the degree of love and hate associated with it. The stronger the degree of love or hate, the deeper the tie is. The weaker they are, the shallower it is. Point 3. The short or long of the tie is determined by debts. Ties are essentially debt relationships. Debt relationships are not related to the amount of the debts as much as to the length of time involved. As long as there is owing, the tie is long. Once the debt is settled, the tie will end. Point 4. Mortals create ties, but Tao ends them. Both good and bad ties are created by mortals. Once a tie is created, It is controlled by the reward and punishment program of Tao and will eventually befall the person who created it. This is the so-called good will be rewarded with good, and evil will be punished with evil. If it is not repaid now, that is because the time has not yet come. Once the time comes, it will surely be repaid. Point 5. With neither shape nor form, but with shadows and traces. We can neither see nor touch a tie. It is a kind of non-material existence. It is like a time bomb. We do not know when it will explode, perhaps in a couple of hours, or perhaps not for hundreds or thousands of years, but ties have shadows and traces. If we open Buddha eyes to trace them, we can find their origins. 6. The beginning and ending of a tie is but a thought. Once you get a tie, you will have to dismiss it in order to keep it from falling on you, and if you want to eliminate a part of the tie, you will have to do good, especially a hidden good, or formless almsgiving. Do evil not to a single thing, and do good to all things. Repentance, praying, giving alms, and selfless dedication are the best ways to eliminate ties, especially an evil tie on the halfway point. 7. Things arrive when ties arrive and things disappear when ties end. All coincidences and emergency events arise due to ties. The tie makes the meeting. When the tie ends, that is, when the equivalent debts are paid, the event will naturally end. When the tie ends, things will part. Point 8. Beginning or ending a tie depends on perception. Human life is a process of tying and untying. Everything is tied. Ties are the sea, and we are the fish swimming in it. Ties are like invisible, densely woven meshes over which people walk. Divine punishments are slow but sure, with big meshes yet letting nothing slip through. This divine mesh is the tie controlled by Tao. If people do not perceive this, then they cannot escape the divine mesh, and as a result they will rise and fall in the sea of ties and reincarnate until they do. This is how ties form and how they end. The 8 best ways to end worldly ties and form a celestial tie. 1. Praying and repenting, formless almsgiving. Praying and repenting in accordance with the teachings of Jesus Christ, attaining the great vehicle, and making formless almsgiving according to Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching are the ways to end all the evil ties, repay all the debts since the beginningless time, accumulate treasures in heaven, and go directly to the Elysium world, the kingdom of the greatest creator. Point 2. Associating with others by following predestined relationships, swallowing humiliation, and bearing heavy loads. The ties that we formed since beginningless time will come in succession. To this end, we need to associate with others by following our predestined relationships and resolve them in succession. Whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him also the left one, because it is the result of an ill tie. If you do not allow them to smite you, then the ill tie will not end, but will recur in another form in the future. If others scold you, bully you, insult you, or trample upon you, be they relatives, friends, or strangers, then you must accept it with delight and with neither anger nor resentment. Pray for and bless your enemy. 3. Doing evil not to a single thing, doing good to all things, regardless of what dilemma or situation you find yourself in. You should have only good thoughts, good words, good expressions, and good deeds, never evil ones. Just praise all others and speak not one bad word against any others. However you speak, it must be active, positive, and optimistic, never passive, negative, or pessimistic. Try your best to bring happiness and joy to people rather than distress and sadness. You should not only treat people this way, but all life and all nature. Point 4. Always giving, never taking. The guiding principle of the universe is that the sum of positive and negative energy is always zero. Losses and gains are always equal. What one gains and loses always balance out. If you lose, you will certainly gain. If you gain, you will certainly lose, so never think that someone owes you, but remind yourself what you owe others. If others bully us, it is because we owe them and it is time to pay them back. If others owe us, be it emotional debt or financial debt, do not ask for it, because it will be returned in one way or another. Perhaps in this life, perhaps in the afterlife, perhaps from the head, perhaps from the toe. All in all, The law of the sum of negative and positive energy always is zero will work. We just give and leave the taking to Tao. Point 5. Being apart from the mortal world and avoiding mundane entanglements. Living in the mortal world is to inevitably contact a variety of mortals and deities. But remember that in no case must you ever take advantage of others, not even those closest to you, your parents, children, husband, or wife. In all the universe, heaven and earth, there are no advantages to be had. Whatever advantages you think you have taken are harmful because you will bear losses to balance them out, especially when you are dealing with ignorant persons, deities, mortals, sages, let alone the public. If you take gains from beasts and birds, then your nature will be harmed. If you crave gains from people, then you will bear losses from the Tao of heaven. The hard truth is that if you are not corrupt, do not take advantages nor owe debts, then you are staying away from the mortal world and are free from the ties of mundane entanglements. One particularly important thing is that love and sex must always be completely consensual from both sides and totally free from luring or forcing, or such a mundane entanglement will be as difficult to end as cotton or silk. Point 6. Pursuing celestial beings and worshipping Buddha builds good ties. Celestial beings are in the celestial world. Buddha is in the Buddhist world. Both are good places to be. Building relationships with celestial beings and Buddha gives you hope to exit from samsara and go straight to the realm of freedom. The actual manifestation of spiritual wisdom is giving advantages and benefits to all life in the lower level life space and owing them nothing, building relationships with life of the higher level life space, emulating celestial beings, and worshipping Buddha whenever and wherever you see them. It is always best to have celestial being or Buddha owe something to you. Point 7. Forgiving the wrong and severing its attraction. We should forgive all those who have ever harmed our life since the beginningless time and stop asking them to repay us. This is the way to completely sever our ties with them and develop no new ones, which can let the attraction of life in the lower level life space completely disappear from us so that we can ascend to heaven and become an immortal. Point 8. Revering the greatest creator and taking the way of the greatest creator. This is the heart and core to end worldly ties and form a celestial tie. Also the top and best way to achieve a state of oneness with man and nature and Tao, as well as to go to the Elysium world. Everything that Life of Chanyuan does is centered on taking the way of the greatest creator. If you want to understand this more deeply, then you will have to read and understand the meanings of Chanyuan Corpus and Siefeng Corpus, enter the new oasis for life, and serve for the Life of Chanyuan era. Conclusion. All forms and things in the universe develop and change as the result of predestination. When predestination exists, then forms, matter, and things exist. When predestination ends, then forms, matter, and things end. Good ties bear good fruit and bad ties bear bad fruit. Mundane entanglements fall into the mortal world, but affinity with Buddha goes to the Elysium world. This truth must be understood. Those who understand the secrets and the truth are celestial beings and Buddha. Those who do not are mortal beings.
现实与虚幻的辩证关系。
The dialectical relationship between reality and illusion. Siefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. Reality is real in name only. Illusions are illusory in name only. Reality is illusory and material. Illusions are real and non-material. The material world is the presentation of the non-material world. The non-material world is the foundation of the material world. Reality is like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, and a shadow. As dew and lightning, thus should you meditate upon them. Every illusion is real and true, is where the real spirit and soul dwell, and where the great universe is. Consciousness is illusory, but reality is the reflection and projection of consciousness. The consciousness determines the state of life's existence. Wishes are illusory, yet they lead to reality. Ideals are illusory, yet they accomplish life's reality. Visualized prospects are illusory, but according to the principle of visualized thinking, it is they that determine the future. Love is illusory, but it can inject huge spirit and soul energy into people. Heaven is illusory, but we all want to go there. As long as we dream of heaven, we will be able to overcome the hardships of life's journeys and lead optimistic and positive lives. Dreams are illusory, but when we are in dream worlds, the illusions look very real. We think of our day-to-day lives as being real because everything in them seems very real and true. But what is the difference between the truth of reality and the truth of dreams? One day, when we finally leave this real world and wake up in another illusory world, we will find out that life is only a dream, an illusion. What are illusions? What is reality? The bygone is like mist and smoke, like a dream or a fantasy. The future truth is illusory and looming. To walk slowly or quickly, there are many roads to take in life. To take with good means or bad, in the end, it is all empty. The wilderness where foxes sleep and hares walk was once a dance hall. The bleak and desolate field where flowers and grass grow was once a battlefield. The bygone realness now becomes illusory, and the illusion of the future will evolve into reality. Reality comes from illusions and will return to illusions. Illusions originate from truth and will become reality. Everything is but a game. Only the soul is true. Reality is a game. Those who obsess with reality and are trapped in it are confused. Those who take delight and fun in it are awakened. It makes no sense to try to hold on to the reality of a dream. The real life is to play the games. The contents of them are determined by illusory consciousnesses. Illusory consciousnesses are determined by souls. Souls are real, but nature is life and a characteristic of structure. Structure determines nature. Therefore, the non-material structure of life is ultimately, absolutely real. However, reality and illusion are dialectical. Real structures give rise to illusory consciousnesses. Illusory consciousnesses in turn produce real structures. Therefore, our top priority should be to concentrate our efforts on the illusory consciousness of life. The type of illusory consciousness decides the future reality of life. Illusions become realities and realities become unreal. If you have a beast's illusory consciousness, then you will eventually live in a beast's reality. If you have a celestial being's illusory consciousness, then you will eventually live in the celestial world. Once you understand the dialectical relationship between reality and illusions, you should not be lost in reality. Consume your time and energy on things there, cling to and worry about them, seize, possess, compete for, or persist after them. You should take reality as a stage in a game and play it to its fullest. As long as you get happiness, joy, freedom, and blessing, then your life is successful, wise, and full. To own nothing is to have everything. Not to act is to act. Hold fast to illusions, and you can have reality. Having reality is, after all, an illusion. Life is a journey. The more things that you possess in reality, the more misery you will have, and the more pathetic you will become because your life will all be a tragedy. The more illusory things that you possess, the happier and more affluent you will be because your life will ultimately become a comedy.
宇宙八大辩证法
The 8 Dialectics of the Universe. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Kair. Taiji thinking teaches us that everything in the universe comes from the unity of opposites and the symmetry of yin and yang. Opposing sides exist in the same unity. One is the condition for the other and disappears when the other does. Within a certain range, one flourishes as the other declines. Extremes meet and things develop in opposite directions when they become extreme. For example, know the male, but conform to the female. Sages put themselves last but find themselves in front. They regard their bodies as accidental and are thereby preserved. Life is the root of death and death is the root of life. Yin and yang are the roots of each other. To yield is to be preserved whole. To be bent is to become straight. To be hollow is to be filled. To be tattered is to be renewed. The growth and decline, the generating, sustaining, destroying, and changing of any two opposites are dialectical. There are 8 dialectics in the universe. Form is emptiness and emptiness is form. When things exhaust, they revive. When they end, they begin anew. The small can grow big. Details matter. Life and death are the roots of each other. Yin flourishes when yang declines. To have nothing is to have everything. To have everything is to have nothing. Where the mind abides nowhere, nature prevails. Where the mind abides somewhere, nature recedes. Stillness and motion coexist. Light and dark are interdependent. Positive and negative are symmetrical, but proportion restrains. Form is emptiness and emptiness is form. The three elements of the universe are consciousness, structure, and energy. They are all non-material. The existence of any single element is emptiness. See it, and you will not see its form. Hear it, and you will not hear its trace. Meet it, and you will not know its face. Follow it, and you will not find its back. Once the three join together, though, there is lustrous and dazzling form, changing countlessly and into a myriad of images. Therefore, form comes from emptiness and emptiness is form. When emptiness comes, there is form, because form is emptiness. If a mind abides in form, it is in emptiness. If a mind abides in emptiness, it is in form. You pursue form, but form is never there. You pursue emptiness, and you get form. Pursuing form results in emptiness. Pursuing emptiness results in form. When things exhaust, they revive. When they end, they begin anew. Extremes meet. Things develop in opposite directions when they become extreme. When you reach your peak, you go downhill. Extreme happiness leads to sorrow, and extreme sorrow leads to happiness. Extreme yin is yang, and extreme yang is yin. The softest becomes the hardest, and the hardest becomes the softest. There is a time to rise and a time to fall. When a thing reaches its prime, it will be old and will revive. The end of the infinitely big is the infinitesimally small, and the end of infinitesimally small is the infinitely big. When something saturates, a qualitative change happens in it. Things change at critical points and new substances are produced. Extreme beauty leads to ugliness, and extreme ugliness leads to beauty. Extreme goodness forms evil, and extreme evil forms goodness. That is, great virtue is no virtue, and great benevolence is heartless. Haste makes waste. One who understands Tao appears dull of comprehension, and one who advances in Tao appears to slip backwards. To pursue happiness, you must avoid extremes. To revive, go for the extreme. The small can grow big. Details matter. Matter is composed of molecules, composed of atoms. A tree with a full span's girth begins from a tiny sprout. A 9-storied terrace begins with a clod of earth. From small beginnings, one can see how things will develop and grow. Difficulties are overcome by easy things. Great things are accomplished by the details. Details matter. Deal with the big while it is yet small. Deal with the difficult while it is yet easy. Start from the beginning and start from the small, but do not lose track of the big picture. Molehills make mountains. Do not neglect small things, or you will never accomplish big things. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Any future success depends on the present. Small details and tiny things lead to grand achievements. Life and death are the roots of each other. Yin flourishes when yang declines. Life is the root of death, and death is the root of life. No life, no death, no death, no life. Life and death alternate, and each follows the other. Yang flourishes when yin declines, and yin flourishes when yang declines. Every moment of every day has birth and death. One dies here, but is born there. Hard is born as soft dies. Good is born as evil dies. One departs from the mortal world and is born into the celestial world. A human heart dies, and the heart of a celestial being is born. If you keep the old, you will get nothing new. If you are selfish, you will never reach the Elysium world. Out of life, death enters. Those who are not afraid of death will live. The created universe carries yin at its back and yang in front, and vice versa. Seek life, and you will die. Seek death, and you will live. To have nothing is to have everything. To have everything is to have nothing. Out of nothing, there is something. The less you possess, the more you have. The more you possess, the less you have. When you possess nothing, you can have everything. When you have everything, you can possess nothing. The more you have, the more emptiness you feel, the more illusory it is, and the more real it is. Walk into the spiritual Pure Land, and you will see a wonderful world. Pursue wealth, power, and lust, and you will have endless troubles. Being and non-being interconnect in growth. If you want to have something in heaven, give it up in the mortal world. To have nothing is to have everything. By the existence of things, we profit, and by the non-existence of things, we are served. Work on non-existence for existence. Where the mind abides nowhere, nature prevails. Where the mind abides somewhere, nature recedes. Nature is the quality of origin, which is Buddha. The reason that people cannot attain Buddhahood is that their minds abide somewhere. If their minds abided nowhere, they would attain Buddhahood. When one's mind abides nowhere, nature shows. When their mind abides somewhere, nature recedes. This is dialectical. One advances as the other retreats. Different forms give birth to different souls. When minds abide somewhere, trouble comes. Therefore, if your mind abides somewhere, it will be in falsehood. It should not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharma. It should abide nowhere. When the mind abides nowhere, it can abide everywhere. And when the soul can transcend over all forms and show the nature, one can reach the Elysium world. He who focuses too much on the specific cannot see the general. A mind that abides somewhere cannot go to the Elysium world. One who acquire enlightenment can perceive nature. One who lack mind can show nature. Stillness and motion coexist. Light and dark are interdependent. Stillness is the source of motion. It cannot be dynamic if it is not static. Motion is the root of stillness. It cannot be static if it is not dynamic. Stillness and motion coexist and come from each other. Strong motion comes from great stillness. Great stillness comes from strong motion. All things derive from stillness but are accomplished in motion. Without stillness, there is no motion. Without motion, there are no accomplishments. Light comes out of darkness and darkness comes from light. Heaven and hell, one light and the other dark. Extreme darkness is light and extreme light is darkness. Fortune and adversity go together. Out of waste grows grass. Bliss is unfelt until after it leaves. Good fortune lies within bad. Bad fortune lurks within good. Non-interference with natural rules and letting all things happen naturally. Those who act at the wrong times spoil things. One should never fear the dark. Out of extreme darkness comes light. Knowing the dialectic of the universe, one can enjoy the light cautiously, for from extreme light comes darkness. Positive and negative are symmetrical, but proportion restrains. Those who differ from the crowd will be slandered. An outstanding tree in the forest will be destroyed by wind. Those who enjoy great fame will be envied, but those who are most favored will be slandered. 36-dimensional space is arranged symmetrically. The forces of action and reaction are equal but in opposition. All things reinforce and neutralize each other mutually. There is always one thing to overcome the other. There is heaven and there is hell. All things develop in proportion. Chaos and the early devastation were the results of imbalance. Boundless avarice leads to disaster. Conform to nature and give up inordinate ambitions. Understand that everything has two sides and that perfection is unattainable. Rivers run into the sea, so you can never drink them all. Tao is the theory of yin and yang. Maintaining a balance between the two is rational. Knowing the dialectic principle is wise, and complying with the laws of nature can be regarded as virtue.
如何解脱生死?
How to liberate yourself from life and death. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. The subtlety of liberating oneself from life and death in The Treasury of the True Dharma I, is that Buddha Sakyamuni had held a flower in his hand as he smiled in the Lingshan mountain assembly. Only his first disciple, Mahakassapa, understood why and gave a faint smile. Buddha said, "I possess the true Dharma I, the marvelous mind of nirvana, the true form of the formless, and the subtle Dharma gate that does not rest on words or letters, but is a special understanding outside of the scriptures." Mahakassapa later explained his understanding directly to Ananda, who gave it to Shanavasa, and all the way to Bodhidharma, the 20th patriarch of Buddhism. When the 27th patriarch, Prajnatara, gave it along with a robe and begging bowl to Bodhidharma, he said, 60 years after I attain nirvana, I want you to take these 3 things from India to China and carry Buddhism forward to benefit all living people. Bodhidharma took Zen Buddhism to China and was regarded as the first Chinese Zen Buddhist patriarch. He eventually passed them to Haik, the 2nd patriarch, who passed them to Sankhan, the 3rd patriarch, then to Daoxin, the 4th patriarch, and to Hongren, the 5th patriarch. When Master Hongren told about them, he was met with some trouble because he found that the real successor should be the unknown handyman Huaining in the monastery instead of the highly reputed and admirable Professor Master Shenxiu. It would be very unconvincing to all if everything passed directly to Huaining. In a desperate way, he said, "The lives and deaths of mortals are matters of huge importance, but you only pursue the land of promise without seeking to be away from the bitter sea of life and death. If you lose your nature, then how can blessings bring you salvation? Both of you, write me a stanza. He who understands what the essence of mind is will be given the robe, the insignia of the patriarchate, and the Dharma, the ultimate teaching of the Zen school. And I shall make him the 6th patriarch." With a small trick, he finally gave his treasures to Master Huaining. Master Huaining was the 6th and final patriarch of Zen. The treasury of the true Dharma I and the robe and begging bowl were lost after him. I used to joke that I am the 7th patriarch of Zen, and that I have written on Zen by the 7th patriarch of Zen 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which are the most heavily weighted 5 articles of all my writings. Now the question, as instructed in Buddha's treasury of the true Dharma I, this subtle Dharma gate, does not rest on words or letters, but is a special message outside of the scriptures, becomes how to transfer from mind to mind. If I were to tell it with words, then I would be rebelling against the teachings of Buddha. So, if not expressing with words, how can we know how to liberate ourselves from the samsara of life and death? To make the best of both worlds, I can only slide over the water. Whether you can be liberated from life and death all depends on your level of practicing Tao, your destiny, and your root of wisdom. There is no life or death in life. The life and death seen by the world is an illusion. It is the evolved deduction of the carrier of life. Life has nothing to do with time. So life has no limitations of time and is beyond all ages. The nature of life is non-material structure. The form rendered by life is decided by its non-material structure. Its non-material structure decides the form rendered by it. Consciousness originates from structure and in turn controls structure. Human consciousnesses make people, animal consciousnesses make animals, and if you develop your consciousness to that of a celestial being or a Buddha, then you will become a celestial being or a Buddha. Life is a cycle of reincarnations. The death we commonly see is not the death of life itself, but the phenomenon of life transformation. Life travels from one dimension into another, from one world into another, through the gate of life and death. When a life crosses that gate, from this field, we see it as is death, but from the other field, it is life. All dharmas are marked with emptiness. They neither begin nor end, are neither immaculate nor defiled, and neither complete nor deficient. Therefore, in emptiness there are neither forms, feelings, perceptions, impulses, nor consciousness. Neither eyes, ears, noses, tongues, bodies, or minds. Neither sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touchables, or any sensations, and so on until we have form. There are no mind consciousness elements, no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, until we have form. There is no decay and death, no extinction of decay and death, no suffering, no origination, no stopping, no path, no cognition, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, it is because of their non-attainmentness that bodhisattvas, through having relied on the perfection of wisdom, dwell without thought coverings. In the absence of thought coverings, they have not been made to tremble, have overcome what can upset, and in the end, have attained nirvana, to be free from life and death. When you are liberated from life and death, you can attain nirvana. If you understand the truth above, then you can be liberated from the samsara of life and death. The problem is that as mortals, we have fleshy eyes and mortal stocks. As we cannot see higher dimensional space and worlds, we are not fully convinced of the above truths. Then what? It is easy. Follow the guide and verify, step by step. What are those things that hinder us from liberating from the samsara of life and death? The answers are greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, and suspicion. Greed is the want to always possess more out of self-interest. Anger is to detest, blame, and envy. Ignorance is the belief that you are always right and never wrong. Arrogance is self-importance, pretentiousness, disdain, defiance, and the lack of a gracious, cherishing heart. Suspicion is being full of doubts and not facing the facts. It is hypocritical, false, and self-deceiving. Overcoming greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, and suspicion will enable you to understand this truth and will liberate you from the samsara of life and death. The reason is very simple and easy to do, but putting it into real practice is difficult. After being liberated from life and death, one also needs to understand where to go after death. If you are heading to the lower world, then you will be miserable.
宇宙全息一
Cosmic Holography I. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. The universe runs in holographic order and consists of the distributed psychic energy of the greatest creator, Tao, just as we humans are composed of the flesh and spirit of the same. From the infinitely cosmic to the infinitesimally tiny, each are closely related and connected together. I am in you, and you are in me. On the macro scale, energy fills the space and time of the entire universe, while Tao controls the operation, development, and changes of all things and within it. Therefore, it is an organic whole, and the seemingly unconnected multiple celestial bodies, phenomena, and people are its constituent parts, its cells. So the universe is holographic. On the micro scale, atoms, molecules, and people are consortiums of structure and energy which have mutual interaction with everything else and together belong to the unity of Tao and energy. So the universe is holographic. Try to pierce your toe with a needle. You will feel muscles tightening throughout your body, and your brain will jump with an immediate emergency response. If a lover or your parents are next to you, they will also react promptly. Why? Because you are holographic. Turn your computer on and access the web. Global data will stream onto your screen as you search. Why? Because the internet is holographic. Arthritis sufferers can sense rain while the weather is still dry, and many animals can detect seismic disturbances before the earth shakes. Why? Because the earth is holographic. The waning and waxing of the moon raises and lowers the tides, and sunspots directly affect climatic changes and the rhythms of life on the earth. Why? Because the solar system is holographic. Cosmic holography also means that the whole contains all of its parts, and all of its parts contain the whole. Our bodies are constituted of 130 trillion cells, and each of them contain all the information of the human body. That is, when they all assemble together, they constitute a complete human individual. Each cell is just an insignificant component, but when we divide them individually, each one can form a human body. Viewing them with Buddha's eyes, each of them is a complete human body with 5 senses, 7 holes, bones, hair, internal organs, 4 limbs, flesh, skin, and so forth. If we split a single cell, we will find that this inconceivable cell is made up of an equal number of even more inconceivable ones. Our complete image can be seen in a mirror, but if we break that mirror in half, then each half will reflect our complete image. That is, we will have two images. Break it in half again, and we will have four identical images, and so on. If we break this mirror into millions, billions, or even trillions of pieces, we will still see our complete image in each and every one of them. The number of potential images is countless. Even if a seed has not been planted in soil to take root, sprout, blossom, and bear fruit, its whole entity, the shape of its leaves, growth patterns, and so on can be seen with Dharma eyes. We cannot see the shape of a bud if we do not know what type it is, and without referring to its blade with naked eyes, and we will not know how big it will grow, but we can see its size and shape by looking at it holographically. If you cut a growing leaf in half, then its whole image will be visible from the remaining half, and you can see its entirety from either half. All things are like this because the universe is holographic. Now that we know that the universe is holographic, our worldview and outlook on life will take a subversive leap. If we want to understand the Tao of Lao Tzu, the Dharma of Sakyamuni, and the thinking and scientific theory of Jesus, we will understand it thoroughly and at a glance, and our spiritual perception will open. Those with deeper roots can develop a series of special magical powers and arts and will feel at ease in dealing with the affairs of their daily lives. For example, one big distress in life is the love between men and women. Between lovers and married couples, one always expects the other to be faithful and pure, but if they learn that the other is having a secret relationship with a third party, then they become distressed and sad, and no matter how much effort the other exerts to vindicate themselves, "I love you just as much, I really do," it will be useless, because their credibility will have been lost. "You cannot be true to me if you also love that person, and your love is false and the love that you offer me is incomplete," would be the responses. Their distress is caused by not understanding the holographic nature of the universe. From the holographic universe perspective, if someone loves several people, even hundreds, thousands, millions, or billions of people, their love for each of them can be complete, true, and absolutely complete. It is like seeing oneself in a mirror. There is one self in one mirror, two selves in two mirrors, and a billion selves in a billion mirrors, but each is complete. Buddha can incarnate and rescue trillions because Buddha knows that the universe is holographic and Buddha is holographic. Conversely, if I am loved by 10,000 women, even if they also love other men, but I believe that their love for me is wholehearted and complete, then I will gladly accept their love. Likewise, if I love 10,000 women, then my love for each of them can still be true and complete. Why should you have to cling on to just one? Life is short. Does it matter if you love more than one? Other truths can be inferred accordingly. In short, oneness of man and nature, universal holography, subtle wisdom, and depth of understanding reincarnate into trillions.
宇宙全息2
Cosmic Holography II. Xiefeng. November 3rd, 2005. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Cosmic holography means that the universe really is alive, that everything in the universe shares the same breath and destiny, and that any local change, directly or indirectly, affects its entirety. A storm on Mars can cause colds on Earth, the death of a whale in the Pacific Ocean can cause grief in Nile River fish, and a butterfly flapping its wings in Alaska can cause a storm in the Cape of Good Hope. This is an extreme and exaggerated expression, but it conforms to theory of cosmic holography. An article by Xiefeng will inspire the awakening of human consciousness as a whole. This is an extremely exaggerated expression, but it conforms to theory of cosmic holography. The purpose of understanding things is not only to appreciate them, but also to use them to serve us and to maximize our freedom. Taking the way of the greatest creator is not for suffering or enduring hardship, but to maximize our enjoyment of life, and to obtain more joy, pleasure, and happiness. To understand cosmic holography is not only to enrich our own knowledge, because gaining knowledge is not our purpose, but to apply it to serve ourselves and others. How can we make the knowledge of cosmic holography help us to navigate through life? Since the universe is holographic, the greatest creator, gods, and Buddha are all in us because we are the cells of each of them. A cell contains all the information about the universe as a whole, and in the same way, devils also live within us. When our hearts are filled with love for all lives in the universe, then we have the character of the greatest creator. And when we show mercy to all lives, then we have the character of God and Buddha. But when our hearts are filled with hatred, weighing and balancing everything for our own self-interests, then we take on the character of devils. Since the universe is holographic and each cell contains the information of the whole, then by understanding and appreciating ourselves, we can know all the mysteries of the universe, sense future changes and trends of the universe, and acquire information about the universe's past, all from our own present. Since the universe is holographic, it shows that our memories exist not only in our brains, but also in each cell of our whole bodies, and even in the space and time of the entire universe. Our brains are just sensors, and through it, we can extract records from hundreds, thousands, even millions of years. We can not only trace our own history over the past millennia, but maybe even recall the historical process of the evolution of the universe. Whether Tu'e Bei Tu, less prophecies, divination before saddle horses, Mayan or Martian prophecy, Tibetan remote sensing prophecy, revelations, or any other prophetic manuscript, they are all evidence of cosmic holography. They prove that people are able to accurately predict the future as well as to recall images after several years, decades, and even centuries. Since the universe is holographic, we humans are able to see the entirety of the universe, to see the Milky Way system and the planets that exist outside of it, and to picture the images of the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium world. 36-dimensional space is no longer mysterious and incomprehensible. When a small thorn is placed on one's toe, their brain will feel it instantly and react accordingly. Similarly, everyone's words and deeds are sensed instantly by the greatest creator and also reacted to immediately, which means that you reap what you sow, good will be rewarded with good and evil will be punished with evil, and that causation is the iron law of the universe. So we can believe firmly that we will receive the proper return for our self-refinery and self-cultivation. The dream world is the symbol of holography, which proves that we live in other spaces at the same time, and that we are just a fragment of the holography of this moment. Based on how we feel and express ourselves in reality, we can know where our other self or selves live. If one has Buddha nature, then their negative self is in the Elysium world. If one is cultivating themselves to become a celestial being, then their negative self is in the Celestial Islands continent or the 10,000-year world. If one yearns for a free, joyous, and blessed life without family relationships, then their negative self is in the 1,000-year world. If one has deep love for the human world, then their negative self is elsewhere within the mortal world. If one enjoys fighting, striving, robbing, and seizing, or the law of jungles, then their negative self is in the animal world. If one enjoys dark and selfish activities, then their negative self is in hell. In A Brief History of Time, the great scientist Stephen Hawking realized that there is an anti-universe with anti-humans, and quantum mechanics vaguely detects antiparticles. For particles and antiparticles, however far apart they are, they seem to connect, and they can respond to each other and interact instantly. Therefore, we can infer that every Chanyuan celestial's negative ego, or anti-ego, is in heaven. What we need to do now is improve our consciousness, bring it into closer alignment with heaven, and return to our home. That is to say, to leave our mortal consciousness and let our subconsciousness return to its source. Since the universe is holographic, we are not afraid of death. As long as consciousness exists, We can incarnate trillions of times and project ourselves into boundless worlds. I am the universe is me, so we can attain Buddhahood. With regard to this cosmic holography theory, I put forward the above 8 aspects as a starting point. I cast a brick to attract jade. However, we can draw 80 or even 800 more examples. From a sample, you may judge the whole, make efforts to draw an analogy based on a theory, let the fire of inspiration twinkle everywhere and always, and grasp the secrets of life as early as possible. For years upon years, after days and nights with sunrises and sunsets, people have been living so, back and forth. Is this the time to change to a new lifestyle? If not, there will be no end to our troubles and suffering.
时间的秘密
The Secret of Time. Xiefeng. January 5th, 2006. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. Eternity is long, very long. It runs endlessly. Beginning, developing, changing, and concluding is ornamented by the waves of time. The universe flies in eons. Life twists and turns in years. Love and hate rise and fall in summer and winter. Feelings of gratitude and resentment emerge and disappear in spring and autumn. Time, mysterious time, the wonderful experience of bringing forth the new from the old, drowning the vicissitudes of transitional times, transforming hope into despair, and turning solids into gas and smoke. Life rises and falls in time. It goes up and down in time. Time, what exactly is time? It is the recorder of material cycles. It begins with the creation of matter and ends with its demise. It has these 8 characteristics. Time is non-material. It is untraceable, formless, stateless, shapeless, heartless, senseless, invisible, untouchable, and can neither be heard nor caught. Time is positive and negative. Future time is positive. Past time is negative. Time is particular and universal. Its particularity applies to the specific. Its universality applies to the general. Time is variable. It progresses unevenly. It changes as physical movement changes and disappears as physical movement disappears. Time exists throughout all physical space. It is as big as the universe and as small as particles. Where there is matter, there is time. Time is vertical and horizontal. It manifests itself vertically as the past, present, and future, and horizontally as momentary and eternal. Time has different meanings under different forces. It changes as gravity and acceleration change, but has the same meaning under the same forces. Time expands, contracts, and disappears. The quality, shape, and motion of matter cause it to contract or expand with changes in any of those. When matter disappears, time disappears. There is no time in the non-material world. Non-matter is a reaction to matter, but does not share any of its properties. All matter proceeds through generation, development, decline, and death, but non-matter has neither life nor death, so it has no time and is eternal. Tao, life's spiritual entity, ideas, spirits, thoughts, dharmas, the nature of Tathagata, celestial beings, angels, and the Elysium world do not have time. Therefore, the non-material world is eternal. Since the motion of matter is absolute, we perceive that all things run in time. In this sense, time changes everything and decides all. It can transform the decadent into magic and the ordinary into extraordinary. Everything changes with the passage of time. Along the eternal river of time, all matter is transitional, illusory, and valueless. Time's control must end in order for one to achieve an eternal existence. As humans, it is to fish for the moon in water or to plow the air for our bodies to break away from our shackles, so the human body must follow its nature. To leave time, we must work on our spiritual entities. Life is short, and the spiritual entity of life has many different directions in which to spread. Perfect spiritual entities go to heaven and defective ones go to hell. If we can perfect our spiritual entities within our limited lifetimes, then we can transcend time. In addition to transcending time, we must also work on our non-matter by revering and taking the way of the greatest creator. To roam in ideas, thinking, spirits, and other areas is to deal with eternity and to transcend time maximally and from within the confines of a limited time. When fruits ripen, they fall. When water flows, channels form. Once we make this breakthrough, we can enter horizontal space and time and immediately feel fresh and enchanted. Please refer to Time and Space of the Universe for further study.
人间剧本探秘
Explore the Script of Life. Xiefeng. March 24th, 2017. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Is life dominated by fate? How does fate come into being? Is everything in life prearranged? If it is, then who arranged and directs it, and how can we still have free will? If there is free will, does it conflict with fate? If there is no free will, then does the causality law of you reap what you sow exist, or does it not? Is it true that every word and every act of everyone is prearranged? If so, then are we not biological robots? Is everything accidental or inevitable? Who carries out punishments, rewards, and so on? It is an extremely complex and enormous system, and it is impossible to reveal the whole system clearly. I can only draw a rough outline, and you, the reader, must verify it for yourself. 18 plots cannot be controlled by people in their own lives, but have to be resigned to destiny. For example, their own parents cannot be chosen, arranged, or controlled by them. In fact, a lot of things in life cannot be either. Not only are the sizes of our eyes uncontrollable, but we cannot even arrange a single hair by ourselves. In the face of such vast complexities, we have to resign ourselves to destiny. If we cannot change things, then what can we do? Everything in the universe has its trajectory, all of which are run according to a well-arranged overall trajectory, and we are no exception. That is to say, we also have our trajectories. These trajectories determine the directions of people's lives, whether they will be officials or commoners, poor or rich, or male or female, and be subject to fortune or misfortune. Everything and everyone have been determined by their trajectory. Facing our trajectory, we are powerless. Who is writing your life script and arranging your trajectory of life? You are. Who is directing it? It is procedure. Everything in this life is established by the thoughts and actions of your previous life. This is fate. It is impossible to change the fate of your life because it has already been written. All of your efforts in this life only work for your next life. It can be said that your past determines your present, and your present determines your future. Since everything has already been arranged and planned out, and the story and plot of your life has already been set, then how do we reflect on man's subjective initiative? What good are an individual's efforts? If even what we say and do have been determined in advance, then why should we make any efforts? Individual efforts are reflected in one's mind and how perfect a role they play. Our inner activities are not arranged by our script. Our free will is reflected in our mind, and whether our specific role is performed perfectly or not. Such as in a stage play, the script has been arranged by a writer in advance. The director selects performers according to each performer's appearance, character, acting skill, and so on. The performers must act strictly according to the script and plot and the director's requirement. If done well, the director will be pleased and the actors will receive more pay and have more chances to perform in future plays. If done poorly, the director will not be pleased and their opportunity for future castings will diminish. The quality of their performance depends on them. This is individual effort. Our inner activities are not arranged, nor are they destined. They rely completely on the free will and effort of the individual. It is entirely up to them to decide whether they want to have good or evil thoughts. Our inner activity is our thinking activity. Thinking activity is like a wave that spreads throughout the universe. That is, when the mind moves, Its interactivity expands out to the universe and tells the universe what it is doing, and very loudly. Regarding this, we are unable to view or receive it, but gods know it. In other words, everyone's inner activities can be learned instantly by the universe and recorded in the procedure of Tao. The procedure of Tao automatically arranges the future fate and trajectory of everyone's life based on their inner activities. Karma, karma, karma. Then who rewards and punishes, and who executes the mechanisms of rewarding and punishing? Rewarding and punishing are determined by the procedure of Tao, but it is only the judge. The executor is neither the procedure of Tao nor the judge, but a factor of the boundless universe, a god or man, a dog, an ant, a storm, or an event. It is like a judge who sentences someone to death but never executes anyone personally. That is always left for a series of other people. The script of this life has been set long ago, but the script of the next life is always changing. People's thoughts and actions in this life identify their future life trajectories. If someone is destined to leave for the Celestial Islands continent but becomes seized by evil and does not play their current role well, then their trajectory of life to the Celestial Islands continent will change. Their revised trajectory may devolve toward the 10,000-year world, the 1,000-year world, back to the mortal world, or even to the animal world or to hell, depending on the severity of what they do. As Life a Chanyuan's guide, I sigh with deep emotion during my directing the scripts of Chanyuan Celestials. For instance, I planned to have a certain individual eat a fairy peach which had been determined by her trajectory of life. However, she failed to play her role as a Chanyuan Celestial well in her course. I asked her to clean a toilet, but she failed to clean it thoroughly, so I knew that she was still unable to eat the fairy peach, but only wild peaches. In this way, both her fate and her trajectory of life were changed. It is a strict law that absolutely beautiful things can only be enjoyed by absolutely beautiful lives. If we do not reach an absolutely beautiful state, then absolutely beautiful results will never appear. When we enjoy absolutely beautiful things but our personal quality declines, then those absolutely beautiful things automatically disappear. This is not only the law and the script plot, but also the ever-changing living script. Past scripts are dead, future ones are alive, and living ones are always changing according to everyone's inner activities and how well or poorly they perform. The impartiality of Tao is reflected in Tao gives to every life according to its desires. If you desire blessings in this life, Tao will bestow them upon you, but fewer will remain for your next life. If you want to become a wolf, it will make you one in your next script. If you want to become a celestial being, it will make you one. Tao will surely satisfy you and help you to achieve your goal, whatever you want to be, but it must be understood that the fulfillment of Tao is not executed immediately. It is arranged in the script, it takes a process, and it takes time. You cannot expect an airplane to come the moment you ask for it. You need to be patient. It is crucial to remember that as your plane is coming, your needs cannot change. Once there is a change, Tao has to follow your needs. If you want coffee, but then decide that you would prefer tea, Tao will immediately prepare tea for you. If the tea has not yet arrived and you decide that you would prefer Coca-Cola, Tao will prepare Coca-Cola for you right away. When you change again, Tao will change again. In short, it will always satisfy you. Now, here is a core consideration. If you want a luxury car worth $1 million, Tao will check your bank account, your merits and virtues. If they are insufficient and your bank deposits are not enough, then that $1 million limousine will not be offered to you. Even if you need a needle, you have to check your bank deposits. As long as you have enough merits and virtues, enough bank deposits for what you want, Tao will meet your requirements and demands, or help you to achieve your goal. When a person runs out of bank deposits, or when their merits and virtues are exhausted and they have no remaining blessings, then they will soon collapse, fail, lose everything, go to prison, or end this life. Therefore, we need to give benefits, accumulate merits and virtues, and cherish good fortune during our lifetimes so that our blessings will last for our entire lives, even into our future lives. The universe is a huge script with countless subscripts within it, and all the small ones serve the huge one. No small script can exceed a larger one. The Milky Way galaxy is a huge script, the solar system is a medium-sized one, Earth is a smaller one, every country is a smaller one still, every organization is a much smaller one, and so on. Strings within quarks, within atomic particles, within molecules have the smallest scripts. Adding the non-material world, 20 parallel worlds, in the 36-dimensional space. It is unimaginable and inexplicable for us to know how complex and how huge the master script is. The above is just a tiny bit of my superficial view based on man's bewilderment for your reference. To know more, you will need to work on statistics, analysis, induction, summing up from a large number of examples of human activities, both ancient and modern, at home and abroad. It will take a lot of effort for you to figure it out.
凡得利需付出代价。
All gains must be paid. Xiefeng. June 4th, 2011. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. One ironclad rule of the universe is that the sum of positive and negative energy must always be equal. One ramification of this is that you must pay for of your gains. They must always balance each other, and higher prices must be paid for greater rewards. For an equal amount of gems, diamonds usually demand higher prices than rubies and emeralds. Diamonds require the most money to buy. Obtaining more precious things requires you to pay higher prices. By carefully observing human society, it seems confusing and complicated on its surface, totally out of order. However, through careful observation, it can be concluded that what is gained always equals that which has been paid. The more one pays, the more they gain, and the more they gain, the more they must pay. There are no free lunches. Nothing in the universe can be achieved without a payment. What is lost at sunrise will be gained at sunset, and what is gained at sunrise will be lost at sunset. As one falls, another rises, rising here and setting there. When one gains money, something must be paid. It might be labor, reputation, peace, or even life. When one pays money, something must be gained. It might be comfort, safety, fame, status, physical beauty, or honor. It makes sense that a loss of money avoids other misfortune. Material payments do not always give you material rewards. They might be mental or spiritual. As such, mental or spiritual payments might gain you material rewards. If you pay something, then you will gain something for it, though it can be hard to understand what or when that will be. If you gain, you will pay something, but no final conclusion can be reached as to what or when that will be either, because it might involve health, safety, promotion, wealth, reputation, status, affection, or other life factors. In order to understand the rule that paying and gaining always balance out, that the ironclad law of the sum of positive and negative energy always equal each other, you must not consider only a short time period, but rather a whole life or even the karma of 3 incarnations to judge and draw a conclusion. Through the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, Allah warned us that if all of one's desires are met in this life, then none will remain for the afterlife. There is never any profit at the expense of others, whether parents, offspring, spouses, or lovers, and regardless of whether you are given something for free, find it on the road by yourself, your boss rewards your work, or you dig it out from deep under the ground on your own. As long as you have gained something, you must pay. Why do people suffer pain and hardships or meet with catastrophes? Because they have gained something? Why are people happy and joyous, and why do they obtain good opportunities and grace? Because they have paid something? What revelation can we get from this principle? Never profit from other people's expenses at any time. Never fish in troubled waters. Never profit from others' misfortunes. And take nothing for free, not even donations and contributions. No one should ever be under the delusion that they will get something from their husband or wife for free. You must meet all your needs, pay more, and gain less. Once you pay, you are bound to gain. This goes without saying. Whenever you gain something, Always remember that a loss is inevitable. You can escape it in the short run, but not forever. You might escape a blow in the mortal world, but you cannot escape punishment from Tao in heaven. To reap more valuable rewards, a higher price must be sown. To reach the kingdom of heaven, you must dedicate everything, your entire body and soul. As the guide of human life and life, I state these words here. You can inspect, test, and verify them, but time and results will tell whether or not they are correct.
人间八道
8 Ways Through the Mortal World. Xiefeng. June 21st, 2010. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Our universe consists of 20 parallel worlds within 36-dimensional space. Among these 20, our mortal world is designated as the XY world and manifests itself as 3-dimensional space. The 20 parallel worlds all have symmetry, as does all of 36-dimensional space. From the perspective of reincarnation and the evolution of life, there are high-level spaces such as the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium world, and low-level space such as the inflamed layer, the frozen layer, and the netherworld. The mortal world is the midpoint at which they cross. It is a transfer station for the evolution and reincarnation of life between the higher-level spaces and the lower-level ones. This means that lives from low-level spaces advancing to high-level ones and those from high-level spaces falling to low-level ones must pass through this mortal world as a transfer station. The mortal world is a traffic hub just like the Zhengzhou railway station in China, where crowds come and go, back and forth, hustling and bustling each and every day, determinately and actively. It is easy to see that apart from those who work there, they all scatter quickly to their separate directions and transfer to other cars, buses, trains, and airplanes toward their individual destinations, running along their ways busily. In the mortal world, chaos arises with constant fighting and struggling. Each holds their own ambition, each has their own axe to grind, each administers in their own way, and each realizes their own wishes. As a temporary stage, each team performs its own show to the maximum, and as a temporary inn, passengers from different places stay briefly before parting company and going their separate ways. Each pursues their own prospects. To pursue one's prospect of reaching their destination, they must proceed in certain ways. Without a good way, or by choosing a wrong one, they will never reach their destination. Were they to board the wrong vehicle, their wish would remain just a wish, and their destination would remain out of reach. To be an entrepreneur, one needs to take the way of the market. To do business and make money, they must take the way of circulation. And to be a doctor, they must take the way of medical science and skill. Airplanes must taxi down runways, ships have to float on waterways, trains should run on railway tracks, and cars need to remain on roads and streets. From the perspective of the evolution and reincarnation of life, humans in the mortal world must take one of the following 8 ways and pass on to its associated destination. The way of the greatest creator. One models themselves after nature with holographic order thinking, open-heartedness, flexibility, and tact. They will rise to the celestial islands continent. The way of gods. One worships gods quite distinct from each other, bellicose and domineering. They will advance to Azura heaven. The way of Buddha. One pursues non-form and refines their concept of no abode for the mind and returns to the nature of Tathagata. They will ascend to the Elysium world. The way of celestial beings. One takes skepticism, non-dogma, and freedom as their first priorities and cultivates magical powers as their core. They will climb to the celestial beings' world. The way of humans. One pursues fame and material wealth, attaches great importance to family love and emotions, and remains fond of organization and power. They will return to the mortal world to continue their samsara and return as another human. The way of animals. One takes food, clothing, shelter, transportation, growing up, aging, health, and avoiding death as their first priorities of life, with the acquisition of money as their core value. They will descend to the animal world. The way of ghosts. One neither abides by rules nor laws, but conjures, lurks, and sneaks around like a ghost, speaks one way, but thinks and acts another, and is fond of hiding and good at lying. They will drop into the hell world. The way of Satan. One is fond of dwelling upon spirits and deities, fortunes and disasters, being ambitious and arrogant, blasphemes the greatest creator, and insults the gods. In order to achieve their goals, they plunge lives into abysses of misery and destroy nature by hook or by crook. They will fall into the inflamed layer or the frozen layer. Like attracts, birds of a feather flock together. The way that one takes depends upon their kind of consciousness and their life structure. Divine punishments are slow but sure, is also the arrangement and program of Tao. All have their duties and accountabilities, which make each and every one of them vivid and exciting. Whether they know it or not, each person takes their way. Most are led along ignorantly and uncaringly, but a small number choose theirs clearly and plainly. You, who have read this article, should consider using it as a reference. If you discard what I wrote as groundless nonsense, then simply throw it away. You can even scold and criticize me. But if you feel that it has merit, then consider it as having value because you could benefit from it. Possess nothing yet have everything. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care, possess nothing yet have everything. This is not a paradox, but a great secret with which to go toward a better life space. Jesus Christ taught us to lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. It is only by owning nothing on earth that you can enter the realm of the greatest creator. Shakyamuni Buddha taught us to develop a pure and clean mind which does not abide in anything, neither in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, nor dharma. We should have no notion of ego, personality, a being with a life, dharma, or non-dharma. Everything with form is unreal. All phenomena are dreams, illusions. In other words, owning nothing is the way to enter the Elysium world. The immortal Lao Tzu taught us to take no action, regard one's body as accidental, do not contend, value the world as itself. It gives them birth, but does not own them, acts, helps, but does not appropriate them. He who acts, spoils. He who grasps, lets slip, accomplish but lay claim to no credit. All this is to say that we must not take credit for our positive actions. To put all this into one sentence, all the teachings of gods, Buddha, and immortal are to try to own nothing. Stupid?
No.
The teachings of gods, Buddha, and immortal are the Tao of life, the Tao of light, and the Tao for us to gain everything. How can possessing nothing lead to having everything? The Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, taught us, to any that desires the tilth of hereafter, we give increase in his tilth, and to any that desires the tilth of this life, we grant somewhat thereof, but he has no share or lot in the hereafter. The Prophet's prediction was right. You have already had your share, and you will not have any share or lot in the hereafter. So just give, and you will have more later. The less you possess now, the more you will have later. We have learned from the Taiji thinking that the sum of positive and negative energy is always zero. If you gain in some ways, you will lose in others. This is to maintain the law that positive and negative energy are always in balance. The more blessings you enjoy in this world, the fewer your blessings will be in the afterlife. So, if you want to enjoy a better afterlife, you will need to give more and possess less in this life. Follow the teachings of Buddha. Do more formless almsgiving because doing so will get you enormous and incredible blessings. We see people with lots of possessions, which is mainly because they have gained a lot merits in their previous lives. Many others are poor, mainly because they have done little or garnered few merits in their previous lives. Some people were born with silver spoons, yet many work hard all their lives, but can barely support their families. Evidently, if you want to get blessings in your afterlife, you should earn more merits in this life. If you want to be a celestial being in heaven in your afterlife, You need to possess as little as possible in this life. How can you possess nothing yet have everything? Firstly, think about this. Whatever we try to possess in this world will come to naught in the end. If we make efforts to possess, we are really running after illusions and bubbles. The more you possess, the more distress, troubles, crises, and disasters you will have. You will never rest peacefully. You will feel unsettled. You will literally rack your brain to keep your possessions. You will lie, contend, hurt others, hurt nature, and will cause others to envy, hate, covet, and rob. Your life quality will get farther and farther away from heaven and nearer to the animal world and hell. The more you possess, the farther away from heaven you will be. If you want to possess everything, you will eventually have nothing. Let us look at the birds flying and perching in the forest. What do they possess? They possess nothing, but they have the sunlight, forests, meadows, streams, bugs, and branches to perch upon. They lack nothing. The Gospel of Matthew reads, "Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin." Jesus had nothing in his life, but now he has everything. Buddha had nothing after the Enlightenment, but now he has the Elysium world. The celestial beings in the 1,000-year world and the 10,000-year world possess nothing, but they lack of nothing. The super-celestial beings in the celestial islands continent possess nothing, but they have everything they could ever want. As long as people in the mortal world give more but possess nothing, they will be short of nothing. Why do people have so much anxiety and worries, and why do they compete and contend all day long? Because they want to possess. As we travel, we see that many attractions have been possessed by people. We need to buy tickets, or we will be kept out of the show. The landscape of the earth and the sun and rain are the gifts of nature for all mankind. But now they are possessed by a small group of people, and everyone else must bear their exploitation and blackmail. I built this road and planted this tree. If you want to pass by, then pay my toll and buy the privilege. How can anyone not worry and suffer anxiety in this gangster-ridden world? Water is a gift of nature bestowed to all life. But if we want to use water, we must pay for it. We are told that water needs to be purified, and that costs money. But we should ask who polluted the water. The people who polluted the water should be responsible for its purification. Why should others bear the cost of purifying it? We are told that the water was in rivers and lakes, but now it comes directly to our sinks in our homes, and that costs money. Yes, bringing water from rivers and lakes for our convenience does indeed cost. But that cost should be resolved by voluntary labor under government organization, and the materials should be provided by the production plant. And it is said that if we do not charge for water, people will waste this resource. Yes, this could be a problem, but why would people want to waste for no reason? This is a mental and spiritual problem. Why not just solve them? This belongs to the country. This belongs to our company. This belongs to my family. This belongs to me. In these cases, the public resources will be seized. One day, the mountains, rivers, and the earth will be carved up, and even the air we breathe will be sold and taxed. Everyone wants to possess, but the result will be that everyone will suffer and be lacking in everything. It is only when no one possesses that everyone will have everything. First of all, without traditional families, 80% of social issues would be resolved. Secondly, without countries, 90% of our problems would be resolved. The remaining 10% will be problems of spirit and soul construction. Is this possible? Unlikely, of course, because this is the mortal world, not heaven. However, it is imperial for anyone who wants to go to and live in heaven. If you want to possess something, you will never reach heaven. The consciousness of possessing is our biggest obstacle preventing us from going to heaven. All those who want to go to heaven must clearly recognize this point and realize a consciousness of owning nothing and putting this consciousness into practice. The new oasis for life built by Life Echanuan serves this purpose. Those who enter the new oasis for life possess nothing, but they can get everything. To people who are not Chanyuan celestials, this ideal sounds like the Arabian Nights. It is just a myth, a dream, a fantasy, and a delusion, but to Chanyuan celestials, It is no longer an unattainable dream, but rather a clear reality. If you want to live a better life on earth and ultimately go to heaven, the only way out is to live according to Life Genuine values. In this way, you will possess nothing yet have everything. Brains, minds, consciousnesses in the great universe. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. Brains are the bridges between consciousnesses, minds, and the great universe. The great universe that is seen, heard, smelled, tasted, and felt is processed by brains into minds. Brains would die without the great universe. Brains can be activated by observing and experiencing the great universe, and they will become quicker and smarter thusly. That is why we have the saying, read 1,000 of books and travel 1,000 miles. Apart from interpreting sensations, the brain is also capable of thinking. The closer we look, the deeper we feel about the things and phenomena that we sense, the more developed our brains become, and the more powerful our minds become. Our minds are determined by the information and data provided to our brains which come from the great universe. That is to say, the great universe that a person experiences determines the person's mind, which is why there are wolf children and deer children, as well as the origin of the belief that the Bel-Esprits reside on green mountains with sparkling water while rogues live on barren hills with turbulent rivers, and the reason to keep the company of good people, and you shall be counted among their numbers. From this, we can draw the conclusion that the environment creates human minds. Different environments create different life. The environments of animals bring up animals. The human environment brings up people. The environment of celestial beings brings up celestial beings. The environment of Buddha brings up Buddhas. This environment known as the Great Universe includes both the material world environment and the non-material world environment, the reality environment and the super-reality environment. The reality material environment is the great universe that we see, hear, smell, taste, and feel. The super-reality non-material world includes the great universe written in books, sent to computers and TV screens, dreamed by our subconscious minds, and imagined in our minds. Always remember that you can know the principles and ways to have a sublime life, but you must live in the corresponding environment of life level in order to achieve the life in which you desire to be. Those who are surrounded by animals and animals' environment are animals. Those who are surrounded by people and people's environment are people. Those who are surrounded by celestial beings and celestials' environment are celestial beings. Those who are surrounded by Buddha and Buddha's environment are Buddha. Those who are surrounded by gods and God's environment are gods. People who live with people in the human world for a long time cannot become celestial beings or attain Buddhahood. If one wants to go there, they must live in environments that possess those attributes, live in their worlds. The new oasis for life created by Life Genuine is the environment of celestial beings where celestial beings live. So, if you want to become a celestial being, you must live in the new oasis for life. A brain cannot exist independently, but a mind can. A brain is restrained by the material world, but a mind is not. A brain is material, but a mind is non-material. People carry the genes of consciousness information from many previous lives. The good and bad of the root of wisdom rely on the consciousness of their genetic information. That is the origin of the so-called genius. Generally speaking, people who have never lived in heaven in any of their previous lives cannot become a celestial being or attain Buddhahood, and will have to go through the same difficulty as someone who wants to become a singer but has a rough, untuned voice. Genius is not cultivated, but is innate. The so-called innate means that they have acquired certain qualities throughout many previous lives. The so-called life is the soul, and the so-called soul is consciousness. Consciousness determines the nature and level of life. Therefore, a brain is a channel for information from the great universe to enter a mind. A brain is dead without the great universe and cannot survive without it. Minds are independent and can exist even without the great universe. The great universe can be created by a mind. The great universe plays a decisive role in the formation of minds. In order to attain the mind of a celestial being or to attain Buddhahood, one must associate with celestial beings and Buddhas and live in their world.
我阻挡住了前往天堂的道路。
It is ego that blocks our way to heaven. Xiefeng. March 4th, 2013. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. If everything works according to the greatest creator's will, so let everything return to nature and follow the law of nature as the way of permaculture agriculture. Then the wind and rain will come in their time and everything will harmonize with each other. People will lead carefree lives and enjoy their years of life. It will be realized that we are integral parts of nature, and everyone will enjoy peace and health. Harm and pain are created by people with egos. One is bound to be selfish with an ego, and selfishness is bound to bring harm and pain to others, society, and nature. In return, that harm and pain will reflect back upon themselves. This will lead to vicious cycles and eventual destruction. The teachings of gods are that by abandoning the ego, one will receive life and peace. The teachings of the Buddha are that by being free of ego, form, and worry, one can enter the Elysium world. The teachings of celestial beings are to take things as they are, associate with others by following predestined relationships, act in accordance with nature, and take advantage of opportunities as they arise. Follow your own nature and be unrestrained. Follow your destiny and be carefree. The teachings of saints are to lack the hearts of egos, but to take the hearts of the world as their own. The core of their teachings is but one: be free from ego. Being free from ego, one can enjoy the pleasures of life and enter paradise, the pure land, the fairyland. Facts speak louder than words. People living in the new oasis for life are more joyous, freer, and happier than those living in traditional marriages and families. Why? Because people living in the new oasis for life are freer from ego and more selfless than those living in traditional marriages and families. In the new oasis for life, the freer you are from ego, the more happiness, freedom, and joy you can have. The more that you serve your ego, the less happy, free, and joyous you will be. Facts have proven that in order to lead a happy and nice life and enter paradise step by step, the freer one is from their ego, the better they are. So how can we free ourselves from our egos? Live according to the will of the greatest creator. That is the law of nature. Live by following the teachings of Jesus Christ, Buddha Sakyamuni, and the immortal Lao Tzu. Abandon your ego but integrate into the collective and into nature. Desire nothing but take things as they are. Drink as you thirst, eat as you hunger, and sleep as you tire. Associate with everyone by following predestined relationships and acting in accordance with your nature. Own nothing or no one until you have nothing at all. Neither interfere with others, nor try to control or change them. Be yourself with your original nature. Neither analyze and judge right and wrong, nor judge others' advantages, disadvantages, and qualities. Seek out those who own nothing with selfless consideration and always remain humble and look like both saints and servants because it is correct to listen to them. Ego is the precipice and the stumbling block that prevents people from reaching heaven. Ego is the root of all trouble, pain, and misfortune. Ego will inevitably lead a person to a lower space of life. Only selflessness helps one realize their self. Only freedom from ego helps one achieve their self. These two messages encompass all the secrets of brilliant lives and the principles of life sublimation. Think of them carefully and practice them bravely.
超弦理论的盲点。
A blind spot in superstring theory. Xiefeng. October 24th, 2005. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. If we consider the quantum field theory as one leg in a pair of pants and the general relativity theory as the other leg, then the superstring theory would be the waist part trying to connect them. Einstein's general relativity mainly discusses gravity and holds that it does not exist but is the result of the curvature of space. It assumes that space itself is smooth and flat, but when celestial bodies of great mass, such as the Sun, appear, they cause it to curve inward. It is like pressing hard on a girl's round and smooth face with an index finger, which breaks the smoothness and forms an indentation. The geometric deformation of space gives rise to apparent gravity, which defines it from a macro perspective. With regard to a person or a stone, its mass is too small to deform space any noticeable amount. Thus, microscopic matter has almost no apparent gravity. The problem with microcosmic matter is that its space is not smooth and flat, but is filled with countless, flying particles which are unable to curve space to produce gravity as huge masses do. The movements of microparticles have nothing to do with gravity. They are the results of electromagnetism, the strong nuclear force, and the weak nuclear force. Quantum mechanics appeared when general relativity failed to explain the source of these three forces. Quantum mechanics studies fundamental particles at the microcosmic level. Whether large celestial bodies or grains of sand on the beach, all matter is made of hundreds of types of fundamental particles with masses close to zero but whose trajectories change unpredictably with no rules to follow but are always in motion. Motion is not caused by gravity, but by the three aforementioned forces of nature being converted from the particles. Electromagnetism is converted from photons, the strong force is converted from gluons, and the weak force is converted from bosons. However, the conversion of particles cannot generate gravity. Therefore, the quantum mechanics does not explain gravity. The macroscopic world and the microscopic world are unified integral, but general relativity theory, which can explain motion at the macroscopic level, and quantum mechanics, which can explain it at the microscopic level, are not fully compatible. An overall description of the universe can only be had by combining these two seemingly contradictory theories, and this mosaic theory is called the superstring theory. This superstring theory believes that matter is made of molecules, molecules are made of atoms are made of electron shells and nuclei, and the nuclei consist of protons and neutrons, which are made of quarks. What are quarks and electrons made of? Scientists believe that both are fundamental point particles which have no internal structures and cannot be divided any further. Superstring argues that these particles do not really exist, but are only strings in motion in space, and a variety of different types of particles are formed by these strings vibrating differently. All interactions between matter and energy can be explained by combining and separating strings, but strings do not move in normal three-dimensional space. Rather, they move in a high dimension of space which is beyond our imagination. Our traditional ideas about space are wrong because space has more than 3 dimensions, maybe 10 or even 26 of them. If this sounds confusing, consider the following scenario. An ant crawls into a shallow pit. It climbs out and goes further until it falls into a deeper pit. It climbs out and continues to go until after some time it drops into a sand pit. It climbs out, but eventually lands inside a mud pit. These 4 pits are totally irrelevant to the ant, which simply comes across them by chance. Living on a 2-dimensional plane, it cannot see the interrelation of the 4 pits, let alone know that they may be related integrally. What is the reality of the situation? These 4 pits are footprints left by an elephant as it ate. 1 foot stood on hard ground, another stood on soft ground, a third in sand, and the 4th was in a pond of rainwater. So there are the shallow pit, the deep pit, the sand pit, and the mud pit. That is to say, the seemingly unrelated pits are actually integral parts of a whole. It is only when we think beyond our 2-dimensional plane to include 3-dimensional height, 4-dimensional time, 5-dimensional retention information, and 6-dimensional space movement and so on, that we begin to understand how these unrelated pits are integral parts left by a single elephant. Gravity, electromagnetism, the strong force, and the weak force are 4 pits, but they are actually parts of a whole. Superstring theory was conceived to explain their integration. Superstring is the most promising theory to unify our understanding of fundamental particles with the interactions of the 4 forces. Superstring holds that strings are the most basic units of matter and that all fundamental particles such as electrons, photons, neutrinos, and quarks are different vibrational states of energy strings. Superstring combines the two major basic theories of the 20th century, general relativity and quantum mechanics, for the first time into a mathematically self-consistent framework. Superstring has the potential to solve long-standing problems that have troubled physicists, including the nature of black holes and the origin of the universe. If experimentation confirms it, then our understanding of the structure of matter, space, and time would change fundamentally. The prospect is tempting and theoreticians are struggling with it, but it seems ridiculous and childish to me because of some major blind spots. They are: how have these strings come into being? How do they move? Could they represent the origin of the universe? How can a unified field theory of the universe be established when the origin of the universe is still unknown? Only Life Genuine can answer these questions.
寻找真正的自己。一、
Looking for your true self, I. Xiefeng. August 5th, 2012. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. Who are you and how much of your life do you control? All of it, some of it, any of it. Needless to say, no one can control their lives absolutely. If a person can control just 1/10 of their habits, hobbies, behaviors, and words, then they are quite extraordinary. 18 things are beyond people's control, including their height, appearance, race, ethnicity, environment, era, birth date, birthplace, parents, death, and so on. All these things are predestined and no one can do anything about any of them. But what about our habits, usual practices, hobbies, behaviors, words, and so on? Are these self-controllable? Let us look at 2 specific examples. As reported in the World of Unsolved Secrets, a pair of paternal twin brothers were separated from an early age in Ohio, the United States. They meet again after being separated for 39 years, only to discover that they both had received legal education and were keen on mechanical drawing and carpentry. Even more surprisingly, their ex-wives had the same first names, as did their sons, and even their second wives. In addition, both of them vacationed often in St. Petersburg, Florida. A pair of paternal twin sisters had been separated since childhood for more than 10 years. They agreed to meet at a train station, and one sister temporarily decided to get a hairdo. When they met, she was taken aback, because her sister had also gotten a hairdo. They also wore identical jackets, skirts, shoes, and carried identical purses. Both of them were utterly amazed. We can draw conclusions about these. Both pairs of siblings had almost identical habits, hobbies, behavior, and appearances, though they had been separated from early ages. When they did not know that they had twins, everything about them was taken as individual preferences. They had all believed that they controlled their own habits and hobbies until they found that their twins were almost exactly the same. Everything that they believed to be self-determined turned out to be from invisible consciousnesses rather than their own wills. The habits, hobbies, even the names of their wives and sons had been prearranged and predestined. These cases represent identical twins, but what about the rest of us? What habits and hobbies do we choose for ourselves? The answer is none. Our habits, practices, hobbies, interests, behaviors, and choice of words are not our own decisions, but controlled by mysterious consciousnesses. What are these mysterious consciousnesses? They are our true selves. The selves that we believe we are not our true selves but false ones, and our true ones are the mysterious consciousnesses that control our hidden ones behind our appearances. Case in point, a woman's husband was killed in a war. When the bad news came, she grieved and wailed sadly, but her true self cried with joy, "Finally, I'm free." 9 people out of 10 are pretentious. So, most of the people we face are false, do not talk sincerely, and are hypocrites. We often face cognitive dissonance when our true selves conflict with our false ones. Our false selves tend to be pretentious, to cater to the times, the public, and others. Our true selves have nothing to do with them, and that is Tathagata. How does one find their true self? Continue to looking for your true self. 2.
寻找真正的自己。2.
Looking for your true self. 2. Xiefeng. August 5, 2012. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. In our real lives, we all play roles defined by our plots, such as government civil servants, judges, police officers, businessmen, teachers, thieves, hooligans, and so on. These are not our true selves, but unconscious roles that have been arranged precisely for everyone according to the conscious needs of the plot. So if someone were to ask who you are and you answered that you are a mechanical engineer, that would be wrong. Look into a mirror. Do you see yourself? The image that you see has to be wrong because all forms are seen inaccurately. You cannot see yourself by the image of your form. The one in the mirror is not your true self at all, but only a false representation. Compare your images at the ages of 8, 18, and 48. They are completely different because they are all illusions. None of them are really you. Look at the people around you. Some are giving impassioned speeches, holding guns tightly, making films, singing and dancing, handling official business, fighting and quarreling, catching thieves, selling goods, and some are preaching. All are just acting and role-playing. None are their true selves, but most are biological robots who are running according to their programmed procedures. Your true self is completely free. When you feel unfree, you are not your real self. You have to go to work on time to make a living, do business to make money, be a police officer to catch bad guys, or do your job according to your superiors. Then, you have to maintain the support of your parents, buy a house and a car, get married, and have children. When you make choices, you have to consider the wishes of your family and others around you, and you have to remember traditional ethics and customs. Ultimately, you can never be your true self. You have to consider the expectations, demands, and constraints of the people around you, as well as the cultural values and customs that society adheres to. You want to go one way, but you have to choose another. If you do not, then you will have to bear guilt and pain within your heart, be angry, assume a feigned manner, pose as a person with high morals, and say words and do things against your will or worse. You will face immediate problems with your food, clothing, shelter, transportation, birth, illness, and death. So, you would not have been living out your true self, but only playing the role that you have to play according to the program which has been designed as a social plot. You want to be free in your heart, but you must live within constraints because you are trapped within the program. Put into the plot. Cattle are driven into sheds, pigs are driven into pens, and people are driven into circles of other people. Those who are supposed to dig holes, dig them. Supposed to fly, fly. Supposed to be herbivores, graze on grass. Supposed to be carnivores, eat meat. All are hard-pressed to escape from the bonds of the three realms, but can only be bound by the 5 elements. The script requires that 99% of the people do not to know the truth, because if it were widely known, then the play could not be performed. A news story reported of a migrant whose wife had affairs at home when he was at work and eventually gave birth to a child. He did not know the truth and raised the child into adulthood, but as the child grew, he developed less and less like him, so he had a paternity test run. The DNA test result proved that the child was not his and threw him into a whirlpool of pain and trouble. Once the truth was known, a comedy became a tragedy. King Oedipus in ancient Greek mythology and legend married his own mother unknowingly and innocently and took her as his queen. Had he not learned the truth, he might have enjoyed his warm family, but when they learned it, the queen killed herself out of shame while Oedipus blinded himself and went into exile. Once a truth is learned, its consequences can be terrible. What would you do if you learned that you had protected something that you should have destroyed, or that you had tried to ruin something that you should have been grateful for? It would be useless at that moment, even if the pain and repentance broke your heart. A pig could not live for even a day if it knew that the reason it was bred in captivity was to be slaughtered for food. If 99% of humans knew who they really were, then our whole social system and order would collapse, and the human world as we know it would no longer exist. How do we find our true selves? Continue to looking for your true self. 3.
寻找真正的自己。3.
Looking for your true self. 3. Xiefeng. August 6, 2012. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Have you watched movies or TV shows? Actors call other actors mom and dad. Are they really their parents? Of course not. They were acting and none of the roles that they played were real. They were disguised. Someone is crying. Are they really sad? Someone is killed. Is the actor really dead? No and no. They were fake and everyone is fine. Everything in the play is false and nothing is real. Otherwise, it would be unimaginable how many actors would die on a battlefield of a war scene. None are actually dead because they are only pretending to be so. Acting in movies and TV shows is acting, but how many people are acting in real life? People pledge their love to husbands and wives for whom they no longer have feelings. They defer to their bosses with smiles though they hate them inwardly. And they scold the United States viciously but rack their brains to send their children there. People lust after men or women in their sleepless nights, but then act as guards of public morality and condemn others for acting on their lust. So who is not acting, who are not actors, and who live out their true selves? The truth is that everyone acts. Why are you acting? Because survival forces you to do so. Acting is a survival skill for living. But since it is all just acting, nothing is real. Everything is false. Therefore, everything that we see in human society is false. Nothing is real because everyone is acting. You might say, it is not all acting. Some of it is real. My mother gave birth to me. That was not acting, it was real. And I will ask, your mother gave birth to you? Are you sure that she is your mother? The son had been the father and the daughter had been the mother. So who is your mother? You do not even know who you are. So how can you know that it was your mother who gave birth to you? Besides, how many mothers have you had? How many times have you been born since the beginning of time? Has the same woman given birth to you each time, and has no other women ever given birth to you? Maybe the woman who gave birth to you 500 years ago is your daughter in this life. Can you say that your daughter has never given birth to you? Therefore, it is hard to say who has ever given birth to you, your mother, your daughter, or your lover. Of course, if we limit everything to within this life only, then of course it is your current mother who gave birth to you. When someone pointed at Mary and said to Jesus Christ, "Thy mother and thy brother seek for thee," Jesus answered, "Who is my mother or my brother? Whoever shall do the will of God, the same is my brother, my sister, and my mother." Jesus Christ was real. He was not acting. He was living out his true self. Where is your true self? As long as you want to remain a person, you will never find it or know who you really are. That is, if all your activities are centered around survival, catering to others, your society, your times, and traditional values, and if you still desire money, power, reputation, and sexual satisfaction in your mind and still want to be outstanding, to glorify and illuminate your family name, or to win glory for your homeland, as long as your mind abides somewhere or is tied by someone or something, and as long as you still have desire, demand, hatred, jealousy, resentment, fear, worry, and anxiety from within, then you will never find it either. So, how is the true self to be found? Continue to looking for your true self. 4.
寻找真正的自己。4.
Looking for your true self. 4. Xiefeng. August 9, 2012. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. The universe is the big stage for life. It exists for life. It is full of life. And it is full of vigor and vitality. The levels of life are in various poses and have different expressions from low levels to high ones, and both visible ones and invisible ones. All gradually unfold and perform on the big life stage of the universe, which constitutes the magnificent, and colorful great universe. From an individual life to groups of many lives, all things are designed and arranged in strict proportions. Take people, for example. Everything in our bodies is designed in proportion, such as our numbers and sizes of eyes, bones, hands, and feet. The roles and lifespans of each life and each group of lives are designed and arranged based on proportions and needs. At the same time, each life group exists in a certain program and belongs to its own species. All life survives in certain programs and will have to enter other ones after they leave their current ones. For instance, the animal world is a life program, human society is another, and the celestial world is still another. When people depart from the human program, they will enter and run in the program of either the animal world or the celestial world. As long as one's role is fixed, as long as they run in a certain program, then none of their life is their true self because everything has been determined by the plot of a script. It is like shooting a TV series. Each actor must play a certain role according to the script plot. Even if you have some wiggle room, you will still have to follow the general script. The true self is completely free and is not subject to any outside control. If everything is done based on outside requirements rather than personal free will and is constrained by certain outside powers, then they are not the lives of true selves. In the universe, there is no total freedom except for that of the greatest creator. No life can enjoy total freedom. There are different degrees of freedom. The greater the degree of freedom is, the easier it is to find one's true self and live out their true self, and vice versa. Let us consider a pig and a human. Pigs have less freedom than humans and are subject to the restrictions and controls of humans, so pigs cannot live out their free wills. They live for humans and thus can never find their true selves. Humans have more freedom than pigs, so compared to pigs, humans can live out much more of themselves. Actually, humans in general who live in marriages with families have less freedom than those who live in the new oasis for life. The former live passively while the later are free from the shackles of marriage and family programs and free from many of the constraints of the 36-8 diagram arrays of life. Thus, they have more freedom and can live out more of their true selves. Lower life levels have less freedom and higher life levels have more freedom. For instance, each of the plant world, the animal world, the mortal world, and the celestial beings world have more freedom than the ones before them. It can be said that the worlds closest to hell have the least freedom, but those closest to heaven have the most. Therefore, one has to strive for the higher levels of life space. The highest level is heaven, and that is where true selves are. The more freedom there is, the easier it is to find one's true self. The less freedom, the less true self. In the entire universe from the material world to the non-material world, the most real place to find one's true life self is on the celestial islands continent of the Elysium world, because it is the place where life is free from all programs, is no longer playing a scenario role, and everything is self-decided. There is only the self. The designer, the arranger, the director, and the screenwriter are all the self. We can thus arrive at the conclusion that one can only find their true self in heaven. Pigs cannot find their true selves as pigs, and similarly humans cannot find their true selves as humans. The only absolute way to find one's true self is to become a super celestial being. How does one become a super celestial being? By following Tao and bringing oneness to Tao into the consciousness of the greatest creator to achieve self-consistency. This is how we find our true selves.